Hey, this is Bill, and this is my fun 9 o'clock show. I have a pre-recording today, so this isn't going to be live or turn into a podcast. I want to talk about something a little different. The platform of WordPress. WordPress, to me, is so important. If you want to eventually start to make some money or really extend your ability on Blab, iTunes, YouTube, it's really good to understand a platform and pulling it all together, because that platform is where you can actually make some money, get donations, and set up things that automatically work. But there's a lot of parts to it. So I've been working on, I actually love working on WordPress. There's so much to it. And I've been working on servers. So that's the show today. So let's get into it. So that's pre-recorded music, which is kind of fun, and still working on that, trying to make a podcast a lot faster by recording, getting everything up and moving it along nicely, so you don't have to do a lot of post-production. Post-production takes time and streamlining. So my goal this last few weeks has been to design a show, which is up every day at 9 o'clock. And then from there, we interview somebody. It's called Timelines. It's timelinesofsuccess.com. But you can find it also at netcasting101.com. But the idea is you go there, you go there, you find your shows and you listen to them, and then boom, up on iTunes, because post-production takes so long if you get sideways or don't focus. Because to go from iTunes, go from making this Blab into YouTube is really easy. And I've always said people test shows first, but to take that jump into iTunes and other platforms and RSS feeds, there's about 100 different things you have to do. So you really have to streamline them, get them down fast, and then play with them. So that's it this week. I'm still looking for folks to come on the show. Its show is at 9 o'clock every day. I have some openings for a couple folks out there. I've got some really good show. Jim Collison's going to be on the 31st, and that'll be a super show. He's from the average geek guy or something like that. But he's well known and has huge followings. He is hooked into some big companies, and he'll be fun to have up on the last day. And then we have coming up on the 29th, Jessica Rhodes. She is one of the big behind the scenes persons in podcasting, who actually does a lot of management services to podcasters. So they don't have to do everything. So, hey, let me go back in and explain some other things. In podcasting and in WordPress, let me talk about those two things together. In podcasting, you can do it all yourself. And that's what I started doing initially. In fact, it's been 2 years since I launched my first podcast in January. I launched about 5 of them, and I started the right way. I just said, let me put up a little bit of sound, and then let me put it up on iTunes and then listen to it. And that's what I did. And I still have those shows, but they definitely weren't quality to build an audience, but at least I got them up there. I saw the mechanics, so I wasn't afraid of doing that process. So the next thing I did is I started Timelines. My very first real interview was on a speakerphone, and it came out great. And it was the content that was good. It was about my uncle, Earl Conrad, and you can Google him if you go to timelinesofsuccess.com, go Earl. It was done on a speakerphone from here down to Arizona, and I edited it. It just came out really nice. And I actually didn't use Adobe Audition. I used GarageBand, and I'm thinking about going back there. I haven't been happy with Adobe Audition. So that led me on to the need and the understanding for a better understanding of WordPress. Now, believe it or not, I got Genesis Dynamic early on from a friend. The best thing I ever did in WordPress is Genesis Dynamic. My original site, which is Timelines, I've done very little to it. I've optimized the pictures, but I got into that framework and it just worked. And it works fast, and it really streamlines the content, streamlines the systems. So now I'm start looking at, well, how do we make things better? And it was all about WordPress to make it better. And understanding how to use the WordPress is the next evolution for me to go. Now, about 6 months into making Timelines, I'd interviewed a few people around Reno. Jonathan Dinwood got with me and asked for me to help him create a podcast. Well, I started creating the podcast, but the trade-off there is I learned more about WordPress through the people that he introduced me to, which I think is really important. So learning WordPress to me is, if you're going to run a business or create a business, is one of the most important things you have to do to have an understanding. Now let's talk about hats. So now I've got to create a podcast or a netcast, whatever we want to call it. I've got to be a producer. I've got to line up whatever I'm going to talk about or create the content ahead of time. I got to line up guests, got to do all sorts of things, which is time consuming. Then after that, I've got to bring them all together at the same time, and I've got to run and produce the show. And if I'm going to do it live, like on this platform, there's a lot of little things you have to do, but it's fun. So now you're a producer. So now you have to be an engineer. Engineer being a guy who knows a little bit about sound, or gal about sound and things of that nature. And sound is important in podcasting. I don't know as important as I used to think it might be, but it's still important. And you want to get the best sound you can. So now we're adding some other things with these live shows, and we're going to add about lighting, and we're going to do netcasting, which is all sorts of different things. So now we're doing the production, doing the engineering. Now we're going to be the host or the guy or person on the show. So now we've got to be the star of the show, I guess, or the person running the show. Now we got 3 things. So what are we missing? Well, we got 2 more left. We need to have a good platform, like a WordPress platform. You don't have to use WordPress, but WordPress is one of the things that I think is the easiest way to go and has the most potential because of its open source. So now you really need a webmaster. So now I got 4 hats I'm wearing. I'm now the webmaster. And then finally, and this is the most important, I think, if you're going to be successful and build, you can have great content, but if you're not discovered and found, it'll be very slow growing. It may not grow at all. You need somebody marketing. I know this for a fact. Everyone says, well, your show won't survive unless you have great content. Well, maybe mediocre content will survive, because in manufacturing and business, you can have the best content. You can have the best product in the world. You can be a home builder and be the best in the world. But if you can't take that product and get it in front of people, you'll never survive, never build. And that's where the marketing comes in, which is a little bit of social media. And there's a lot of talk these days about marketing from traditional sources to get podcasts, netcasts, this type of environment up and going. I had a conversation at a Christmas party about a week ago up in Tahoe with the top executive from the local newspaper who's just retiring over 35 years. And we talked about the concept of creating a daily news show, putting it on demand on iTunes and different places, and have the newspaper produce it and then put it on their front page. And he's real leery. He said, well, they don't want to spend any money on anything they don't have to spend money on. This is a big newspaper. Well, they've got traditional media locked down right now in the city. It's Reno, which we're sort of isolated from the rest of the world here. And they've got it locked down. Though they're losing money and they're not surviving, they need to do something. So if they would shift and maybe start producing a show, and it wouldn't cost that much, it would compete against TV for news, and just put it on iTunes and different platforms, they might survive. But the way they are now, they said, well, we're not going to spend anything. We're going to put any money into anything in the next, it's not getting instant returns. Well, they could probably have instant returns and build a show. And the reason why is because they have that newspaper platform to advertise and build in the local community. And our community is about 220,000 in Reno, 80,000 in Sparks, which is a little city up to the east of here. And then we've got Carson City, the capital, about 50,000. But the big paper is the RGG, Reno Gazette. Anyway, so we've got up to 5 hats now. I've got the 6 hats. So if you do a show yourself and you're successful, you're going to have to know quite a bit about all those different areas. And that's a lot. That's why it's really interesting to watch what shows succeed and what don't succeed. Looking back over the last few years, the big guys who came in came from traditional sources. They already had followers. They probably got somebody who really knew podcasting or engineering behind them to start watching it. And I think that's a good business too. Someone who can help people set up. Hey, Eileen's on. Hey, Eileen.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. It's the 9 o'clock show. I've pre-recorded my show today, so we'll be putting up a pre-recorded show, a little short one. All and right. I'm doing a fun blab, which I like to do. I am recording it though.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of 2 things that you have in your title: WordPress and Blab.
I didn't know you're into WordPress so much. I love WordPress.
Oh yeah, I have 2 blogs on WordPress, basic blog tips, which I started in 2010. So I've been using WordPress since 2010, and eileensmith.com, which I started this year. Well, yeah, 2015.
Make sure you drop that in. Drop your links. Sure. Some people say, oh, don't drop other links. I love every link you can drop in because this is so nice. You go back to the show And I'll have this in a couple different portals. I have blabcast.com, which is a real slow load, but I love to go back and look up stuff.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I'm doing is my podcast, and you were listing all the jobs, I believe, because I didn't come in the very beginning, but I thought you were listing the different jobs that a blogger
I'm up to
has.
6.
You're up to 6. Okay.
Want to add some more? We should type them out. You keep on talking. I'll type them out while you.
Well, yeah. Tell me the ones that you've covered already. I guess being a publisher.
No. The very first one is a producer.
Okay.
I think the first job is a producer. The person who puts all. Jonathan is the producer on WP Tonic. He gets all the people, all the content. He writes out and then there's show notes. So let's say show notes is another one, and you got to do those ahead of time. Show notes, and that's part of the producer's job, but it also can be a copyright. So maybe you need a copyright producer. I'm going to put copyright in there. Copy. I'm terrible at spelling copyright. WRIGHT or WRITE. WRITE. It's right. Yeah, copyright. I had to stop and think.
Yes,
I think my mind goes so fast that I don't worry about spelling. If you ever look at me, I actually have some. I went to West Point, so I'm okay. I'm probably average. But when I type and write stuff, I look back and go, "Oh, I shake my head."
Hey, Elizabeth.
So we've got. I'm just going to put them out here. I'm going to put them over. I'm going to make a list over here, and you can help me with this. I'm going to make a list on my notepad here.
Well, I can add one, and I don't know, because you may not have talked about having guest bloggers on your blog, which is something that I've done at Basic Blog Tips since 2011. So that also makes me an editor. Because I don't just say, okay, give me your post and bam, hit publish. I edit for language. Sometimes I edit out content. Well, when I say that, I mean grammar.
Right.
And, punctuation, so forth. But I also edit out content and do a little bit of rewriting as well.
So I've got producer, engineer, webmaster. And then you have your host and co-host, or host, which is the star, the actor, actress, actor. I just put actor now. I'm trying to be politically correct. It's hard sometimes. It is. When you say he, she, or it's tough. You know why? I think I still have some, after 6 years of being on a city council of a city 200,000. I'm always thinking in the back of my head, did I say something that is going to offend somebody and they're going to throw stuff at me?
Right. Or it's going to get you in trouble.
It's always in the back of my head. The most I ever got in trouble, and this is no kidding, I was activated. I was back in the military, and I really should have stepped out of council right away. I came back at Christmas. I went to a council meeting right before Christmas. And it was about housing. And I'd been adamantly opposed to this downtown development. It was crony capitalism at its worst. The audience was filled with Latinos, and I knew most all of them in the community. And I had been in charge of, earlier, before I'd moved up in public safety, I was in charge of community housing and development as a city council and vice mayor. And I come from the building side. And I know all the tricks from my builder friends. So anyway, they were trying to get a big grant of money from the city, state, and HUD to tear down stuff downtown and build a housing project. And you get wealthy doing this because it's automatic profit. And I had pushed all of our developments, our housing, new developments, out ahead of the new housing. So what we do is we build it in the communities ahead of building new houses. So people knew that the affordable housing was there. And we build them high standards and then put really high standards in there. There's some new programs where in California were pretty good. So anyway, bottom line is, if you build housing downtown, you don't have places for kids, parks, and schools. So it's really a bad environment. I think you need to get kids out away from downtown. Anyway, I said in the downtown is my company had torn down 15 years earlier housing in Santa Ana, California, which is at the time was 85% Latino in Santa Ana, California. That's what I said. That's the only time I said it. But I did say later on it created barriers and there were no parks and places for kids and there were large families. Well, a newspaper reporter, which I just came back from, I'm on active duty now. I really shouldn't be coming back and doing this. But I stepped in a council meeting because I wanted to stop this. The newspaper called up 3 Latino leaders in the community afterwards, said, what do you think about Conrad saying that if we build affordable housing downtown, the Mexicans are going to move in and they're going to create barrios and ghettos and have large families.
Oh.
And so these three communities, and one of them was a really good friend of mine, said a quote back, said that is racist. So I had to deal with that over Christmas. The mayor taped everything's on tape. So I came back, and that was one of my last council meetings, and we played the tape, and the radio, the newspaper, everyone was there. As soon as people saw the tape, they all went away. It was because of one reporter tweaking stuff out. So words have meaning. So you got to be really careful. Anything I say here on these shows, if I ever go back into politics, I'm sure somebody could take them apart, use them, and abuse them. But that's politics. I don't know where I got so sidetracked, though. You just got me going back like post-traumatic stress here.
Well, I was talking about being an editor.
Yeah, editor, knowing words and words count. That's why when we go live, we're really putting ourselves on the line.
Yeah.
So producer, engineer, webmaster, host and actor, I put. Editor. That's post-production. So editor. Copyright. Is a copyright? Well, copyright really is the marketing and editing together. A
copywriter is a person, and then that would be WRITER.
Right.
Okay, so I know because Mike earlier put in copyright, but I think that was the thing, copyright.
Well, copywriter, I think it's changed. Early on, when I was in high school, I was in journalism, all in the newspaper, and I interned a little bit for the LA Times on a program for kids in high school, which is a lot of fun. But the copywriter back then had different meaning than it does today. To me, the copywriter is the person who gets the right words in media now with this new media to get marketing and drive traffic. Well, do you think that's the copywriter now? That's what I see. Anybody else want to tune in, talk about that?
Actually, my friend Elizabeth just posted a question. I didn't know if you wanted to read that or pin it up or.
Yeah, let me pin that. Let's see. I can pin it over here. That's right. That's good.
And Elizabeth wants to know if I ever felt overwhelmed when it comes to dealing with guest bloggers. And that is an excellent question. And there's a lot that I've done to combat that feeling of being overwhelmed. And one of the first things I did was I got rid of my contact form. I don't have a contact form on my blog. However, I do have SpeakPipe. So if somebody really wants to contact me, they can leave me a SpeakPipe. And I also have my email address on my blog, but most of my, no, I take that back. Yeah. People are using my email address, and, it's clearly on my blog, my email address. And so what happens is, okay, I got rid of a lot of those guys that were just link builders who were using a service, maybe in somewhere where they could get 50 emails sent out for 50 cents or something. So they just pick a whole list of folks and say, email all these people and that. But I didn't get rid of all of that. I still have some of it. And, but for the most part, because I've been in this, around bloggers and in the communities so long, most of my guests are people that I know already. So there's really not much overwhelm because it's really takes a lot of weight off my shoulders because all I have to do is the editing. And now that I have my daughter's team helping me with the images, I'm getting up on that because now I actually have images for posts that haven't been published yet.
Now I just add another, let's talk about the website and WordPress. You talk about, that's not my strong point is graphics and design, even though I should be because I come from a pretty artistic family. My daughter is really good, but
my daughter is too. Gosh,
the graphics and design is another area. So I put website. Now you have to have a good platform in that website, and there you need a graphic designer. And you need all those other things too.
Yeah. Oh, there's these tools. There's a lot of tools that you can use now with the Canva and PicMonkey and Pixlr. And I must admit, I use them. And now that I look back at my images and I have the team helping me with somebody who's really talented in the area of graphics. I'm looking at some of my old graphics like, I just thought that was the cutest thing. And now I'm looking like, that was horrible. But that's only because, you have to start where you are and do what you can. So if all you have is access to Canva and PicMonkey, it's better than not having an image at all. So you do want to try to, stick to certain fonts and maybe a color palette and all that stuff. And that's where you do need some help from somebody who's qualified to help you pick that out.
We're getting an echo now, and it sounds like it's me. So Miss Eileen, stay on the line. I'm going to regenerate.
Okay.
So we're back after the break, and we always put a commercial in and with a jet sound. So we'll put that in, even though this isn't going up in iTunes. If they missed the jet, come on, jet. We've got the end of the jet. That's Boss Jock, which doesn't work. Oh, she didn't. Oh, come on back. That's Boss Jock. It doesn't work as well as I'd like it to. But usually I do a commercial. So I'll let my guest do a commercial and I do a commercial. My commercial's for Netcasting 101. That's my next challenge in life. Miss Eileen, have you ever put a course together?
Yes, I have a course on Teachable, and
Teachable,
and it's on Udemy as well, but it's about YouTube, and I have how to get started with your YouTube channel.
Can you put the link in there?
Sure. Is that learn.eileensmith.com? We did a whole month on platforms, and we've had some really good people on who develop this, and this is the future. It's learning management systems. And it's amazing how much after I've did this month, how many people have contacted me on learning management systems. But we've really come down, and I didn't know you were on Teachable. We've come down to start with Udemy and just do a course on Udemy to learn. But Teachable is probably the best platform when you want to try to monetize. Mm-hmm. That's good, and they only take like 10% off that free side plus the processing. Mm-hmm. Do you have a paid or free? I have the paid one.
The $29 package.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
So you have your own domain, but that's not that much of a reduction in what you benefit for the money, is it?
Right. Absolutely. I think I love Teachable. I need to do more courses. That's the only thing I need to do. But you were talking about overwhelm earlier, Elizabeth. So now that I'm on track with my podcast every week, even though I don't have this week's episode written out yet, but for all of November and December so far, I've been consistent every week, which is great because
I'll tell you too, I missed your podcast when you kind of took that break. I was like, man, I hope she doesn't stop podcasting.
I have had so many people say that to me.
Yeah.
And so
you don't know how many people listen to you. Sometimes you just don't get it.
Don't leave you reviews.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and no, I don't care about that. It's just that, you have to figure out, okay, well, what should I do now? And I knew last year I just started with the courses. I ended up only making the one course, but then I kept adding to the course and because with YouTube, mm-hmm. I could still be adding to that YouTube course because they just came out with another new thing that I should add to the course. But I feel like I need to build another course because everybody's not into YouTube. And then there's so many people that are doing Blab courses now. Mm-hmm. But this unique aspect, like Bill, like you were talking about, of combining Blab with the podcast and WordPress. That's a whole nother idea for a course.
Netcasting 101. I'm building a course right now. That's the course I'm building. I've done some pre-sales. And I'll tell you what, we didn't talk about CRM even. Mm-hmm. We didn't. I'm going to add that to the list over here. CRM, and that's like Infusionsoft. Are you using any CRM? And for folks out there, CRM is how you manage a list and WordPress list.
No, right now, my CRM would just be Blab. Because, anything that anybody has questions about, or if they need help with anything, haven't had any feedback negatively from the course or, Like you should add this or do that. I'm getting all of my feedback and fielding all of the questions. Like Elizabeth's bringing these great questions today here on Blab.
Well, when I say CRM, it's customer relationship management. And that's what, like Infusionsoft is one of the best known. Salesforce has it too. And even MailChimp. It's funny. I help about 5 other groups with their websites. And I'm not an amazing website guy, but I've got down Genesis Dynamic. And I have them catching emails better than me. So what you have to do is you have to have something that you give away initially or has interest. And if people have interest in that thing, then they might want to buy your course.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
Bill, what course? Do you have any courses already published?
No, I've been 2 years. I'm very, very close. I'm planning on having my first course up by January 1st. And it's called, it's called Netcasting 101, basically. And what it does, it basically teaches you how to use Blab, get on Blab right away. And I was actually writing this before Blab appeared. And it takes you on Blab. From Blab, you go to YouTube, which is really simple, and you set all that up. So you get those 2 things set up. Now you take a break. You go out and create 10, 15, 20 shows. Then you slowly come back into iTunes. And because the jump from Blab, YouTube into iTunes is quite a big jump.
Mm-hmm.
And then you learn how to, do the podcasting. I think podcasting is going to change. It's got to get simpler.
I'm not sure what you mean about the jump between YouTube and Blab. What do you mean by that?
Not Blab and YouTube. Blab, YouTube, but the jump between those platforms and going up onto iTunes with a podcast. That's a big jump.
I don't understand what you mean either, kind of, when you say a jump.
I guess it depends upon where you start. If you started on Blab, then anywhere you start, it's a jump to get into podcasting. I got to be honest with you. You know, people try to make it seem like, oh, you can podcast overnight and all that stuff.
No.
You kind of got to jump through some hoops and get into iTunes.
It took me 6 months to figure out how to get into iTunes.
Really? And, for one thing, there's a lot of bad information out there about iTunes or about podcasting in general. So just weeding through that. And I mean, it's the same way with blogging. There's bad information out there about that as well. But
Miss Eileen, let me clarify something. I can teach you how to get up in iTunes in a couple hours and just get a short little, what you need to do is just make a little short WAV file or MP3 file.
I actually have a tutorial on how to get it listed in iTunes.
Right. But make an MP3 file and then get a $5 account in Libsyn and put it up. And you can do that in a few hours. And that's where you want to start. But there's so many little checklists you have to use to get up there. I mean, I do it every day. I have a checklist. And I'm fast now. It took me 8 hours to do my first podcast to get one up. Just every time when I do a new podcast, my first show at Timelines, it would take me 8 hours worth of work because I track it all. And now it's down to about 2 hours. And my show notes are simpler. It's because of all these different jobs we have to do. Listen, can you guys add some more jobs to this? Anybody else out there? Produce, engineer, webmaster, host or actor, editor, copyright, marketing. Then we'll talk about the website. The website, you have to have a website. So you have to have a website master or understand how to do it yourself. What you can do is, I did my simple WordPresses myself. Graphics designer, you have to have your own hosting. And I have 3 hostings. And then contact management systems. If you're going to make money or expand it, you have to have contact management systems of some sort.
Well, now, as far as the email list, I'm using Aweber for that part.
Yep,
and
that's what I recommend.
Now, there was 2 questions that I wanted to one I can answer really quickly, and that was from Cuddle Blankets that Elizabeth had posted earlier. The best way to learn WordPress. There's courses, but actually, when I started WordPress.
Looks like Eileen froze up.
Blogging.
It was.
Miss Eileen is back. We just had another little break without a commercial.
Yeah. So in the beginning, or when I started blogging, there wasn't a lot of organization for the tutorials for WordPress and all that. But right now, actually, if you go to WordPress.org, they have sort of a manual there that will give you step by step. Now, in the meantime, I got tons of tutorials on my blog that go into, like how to promote your blog and all that. But actually just learning the WordPress platform, You can learn that from WordPress, and it's organized and like in a sequential fashion. So,
Looks like we lost Bill.
yeah. So Elizabeth, did you have anything else to say about that, learning WordPress?
You know what? I kind of started using WordPress on a personal level because I actually have another a WordPress site, which is Liz for a Day, which is kind of like tumbleweed right now because I've been concentrating on smart office help. But I found that just getting on there and looking at other people's websites, and you see what they do and the elements that they have and features, you say, man, I want my website to do that too. And it's like so easy to go over back to your website and figure it out. So, but I'm kind of like a techie kind of person too. So can't compare myself to other people, of course. But I found that for me, it was pretty easy because I just play with it. And now I'm just pretty good on the back end with WordPress.
What are you using?
When you say, what are you using? What do you mean?
What are you using for theme?
Oh, for a theme, I'm actually using Headway themes, which I love Headway themes because I've tried other themes. I've tried Genesis, and I like the other themes, but I found that Headway is highly customizable, and that's why I use it because I haven't found any other theme that I could customize my website like I can with Headway themes. I love it.
Well, I'm using the Appendipity themes, and it's a child theme for Genesis, and I love it. I'm like you, but one of the people that I met, I shouldn't say I met her, Courtney, can't think of her last name right off Courtney Robinson. She is also doing Headway, and she even presents at WordPress about Headway. So she is a big time Headway user. Yeah. So if you guys aren't connected, you should definitely get connected with her, because I posted her picture. That's one of the pictures that I posted of somebody that I, connected with at WordCamp. And that leads us to this question from Nazim, who's asking about the upcoming changes to the REST API and Calypso. WordPress is moving towards being an app and not so much tied to being on your desktop. And one of the things that's going to make it easier for integrations with other apps is this REST API. And in terms of Calypso, I actually have a tutorial on that. I did a video showing Calypso is a standalone app that you can download on your computer. And that's on Mac, and they even have the Windows version now as well, where you can edit your blogs without being on the website. You can have all the blogs that you're an admin for, you can bring into Calypso as long as you're using the Jetpack plugin. And really, that's what this whole REST API thing is about, the deliverability of the content, so that, let's just say you want to bring in content from a source onto your blog, but yet it didn't really talk well with WordPress and all that, or they're trying to eliminate that. They're trying to make it so that it's an app and then you can integrate other apps within it. And this REST API is going to help do that.
That's a really good example, but that's a really good example. Hey, quick thing, just a technical point. I've got 18 websites, and I play around with them. And you can embed your code, so whatever you have live is popping up on that website. So I've got a lot of different places this pops up now, people to watch it, and sometimes they just watch it, so you never know. But I was trying to get on to one of my sites, which is one of my older sites, and it's New Media Gold, and I said but the problem is it pops up with this YouTube and it messes up the sound if I do it on the same computer. So I had to do it. I did it over here.
Okay.
And then I shortcut it up here and put /tools, because you're trying to find some good tools to learn. And I've got some good tools on there. I just have to look at them. Hey, by the way, one of my favorite places to go, and I'm going to try to pull this up. I've got Headway on there in my help desk if you look at it. But it's who is it? It's a really good advanced WordPress. Oh, here it is. On this side, if you go to New Media Gold /tools, and you go down to WordPress Advanced CMS, that's everyone should get, if they're going to do WordPress, should watch a lot of those episodes.
What's the website again?
I just put it's one of my goofy websites. I just throw stuff there, but I just dropped it in there.
Oh, okay.
Let me talk about this advanced training here, and it's really good. But it's by iThemes, which I don't like iThemes, but I love their training here. So if you go down through that, you really start to get an understanding of WordPress. And it's just a really good place to go and spend an afternoon and watch and listen and learn. But anyway, that goes back to all these things that you have to learn. So how does somebody, these really well-known people who are making really good money on podcasting, they know a little bit about what's going on with WordPress, but they don't do it all themselves. They sub out or they contract out, I think, a lot of the work because they're focusing on production and being the star, being the person that gets out front. What do you guys think about that? It's hard to be a jack of all trades in this business.
Well, in order for you to scale, because you're only one person, you're going to have help. So if you're someone who wants to do WordPress and podcasting for a living, you're not going to be able to do it on your own. That's the bottom line.
let me tell you what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at trying to build alliances with people across wherever to help each other to do different things, to learn from each other. That's called a mastermind group. By the way, we got a question, and I'm going to take advantage of this. If you go to Netcasting 101 resources and you go down to resources, there's a SiteGround. I love SiteGround, by the way. Now, let me tell you the good, the bad, the ugly about SiteGround. SiteGround, I have Bluehost and SiteGround. I have a 3-year contract with Bluehost for the cloud, and I've got SiteGround. And I said I'd want to use a U.S. provider, but SiteGround has some of their servers in Chicago, they're redundant servers, but they're not a U.S. provider. But I'll tell you what, their customer service right now is better than anybody. I want to put a link in here if I do this right. So it's and I'm scared to death when I'm on my machine over here to open up different things because it messes up Blab sometimes.
Yeah.
So if you go Netcasting 101 resources, I'm going to drop this in because what happens is if you use this link, it doesn't cost you anything. This is something people should learn and start doing early on to their friends and as they help people. That's an affiliate link. And I'm negligent for not really expanding and working my affiliate links more. But that takes some work each day. But you'll make money off that. That's the easiest way to make money online is through affiliate links. And and I only refer things that I believe in. So today, if someone asks me, where do you need to start? I would go to SiteGround. They have a holiday sale at 60% off, which is huge. It's the lowest I've ever seen it. And I either buy the basic or one step up. And it's pretty inexpensive. I buy a year's worth of support. I bought the middle system for $98. And I've got and they give you a free, they give you a lot of free stuff. But I've got meetthevoter.com on that site. And I checked time, it's under 3-second load. And anyway, everything's getting better though. I'll tell you what I wouldn't suggest is I got into, and I have it on here, DigitalOcean. Miss Eileen, do you know how to use DigitalOcean?
No. But you know what? There's a couple of things I wanted to say really quickly. First, I wanted to tell Elizabeth that link that I posted from Instagram is from me and Courtney when we were at WordCamp. So I wanted you to see who Courtney is.
Okay.
Courtney Angle Robertson, I believe is her
okay, I see it.
So anyway, she's the headway. She's the headway honcho. Okay. But about and I don't know who's echoing, but about hosting. And Bill, what was the question you just asked me about? Was that a host?
No, I'll pull it up here. DigitalOcean.
DigitalOcean.
Is that put the thing. I'm hosting Nextcast 101 on this platform. It's really fast. It's solid state. It's really the future. It has no cPanel. So it's like an Amazon S3. Well, I use Amazon S3 too. It's definitely not the place for a person to start.
Well, what I wanted to say about hosting is I think that just about every host out there has horror stories. I don't care what host you recommend. I mean, Bluehost is the one that you hear a lot of podcasters recommend. I got off of Bluehost back in 2011, okay, because they weren't good enough for my needs.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a small blog, you're just starting out, then yeah, you want to get that $4 a month hosting. But if you're serious and you think you're going to grow your traffic and you're in the process of trying to grow your traffic, you don't want to use shared hosting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's all these new ones out like SiteGround. I use HostGator. I have had a wonderful experience with HostGator. I've had great experience with the customer service. But I know a lot of people that don't like HostGator. So Laura, I just want to say that, try to find one that's reliable and that's one of the major providers.
Mm-hmm.
But don't think that, okay, I got this host now, I'm set. Because you can find horror stories online for each and every single hosting company that's out there.
I was going to say Bluehost is a try and true, and I've got timelines of success on Bluehost, and I've got the cloud hosting, which isn't that expensive if you buy it enough months in advance. I bought 3 years worth.
I think people feel like once they start with a hosting company that they're married to them also, and you can change anytime that you want to. And I actually it's funny that you mentioned SiteGround because I had a web developer that had recommended SiteGround to me, and I've really been looking into SiteGround, and I hadn't heard too much about them before. So it's good to see that other people are having good experiences with them, because that's something I have considered to do, is to move to SiteGround.
Their customer service is second to none. If and you can't, instead of calling on the phone, when you get a little bit better at it, you can text them back and forth, and they send you the notes. And SiteGround, I've had several different providers, and I've worked with different ones. SiteGround has the best customer service. Bluehost has some of the worst customer service. By the way, HostGator and Bluehost are owned by the same company.
Yes.
And they
I did know that.
Yeah. And if you get the cloud versions, SiteGround is all like a cloud. SiteGround's time is all my sites are fast because they're optimized. And I use cloud hosting, which is like, I think $8 or $9 a month if you buy that. Mm-hmm. But when you're just starting and learning, I would just buy the basic program, learn to install WordPress from their tutorials, and it's not very hard. And then start playing around with some free themes, and then take the next step. Unless you want to get a coach and jump right in and try to get some premium themes and systems. Like I'm definitely a Genesis Dynamic person. I'm going to stay that direction. Miss Eileen, you got Genesis, right, in your theme?
Yeah, I have Genesis. And like I said, I use Appendipity, which is a theme that is really primarily for podcasters. And it has some really wonderful players. In fact, I interviewed Joey Kissimmee here on Blab, and he's the developer of it. But even if you don't have a podcast, because on my basic blog tips, I don't have a podcast, but I use that theme over there. I love it because talk about being customizable. Another thing I think people should look for when they're investing in a theme is look for one that can eliminate plugins. And Appendipity has so many, especially the social sharing plugins, the social following plugins. I don't even have to have PowerPress, which is something that most all podcasters have on their WordPress installs. PowerPress, I don't have it.
There's a big discussion on that. And in WordPress, there's two different theories. Now, we both go to WordCamps. I know that. Mm-hmm. And there's two different theories. These big themes that have built-in plugins. Basically, if they've taken the code from other plugins and built them in and maintain them. I'm a minimalist. I like to keep a nice framework with Genesis, and I use Dynamic for a little bit of design tool. I'll probably go to a couple of design tools on top because my designs aren't amazing, but they function. They work really well. But I like to pick my plugins and make sure that they're good plugins, and you can do some research. Mm-hmm. And then I maintain them all through WordPress.com. Mm-hmm. So we're going to let somebody in here. Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, with the Calypso, you can also turn on and off that maintaining of the plugin.
It's Saw. Hi, Saw. Where are you from? Hi, Saw. Saw's coming up here. See if we can listen to him. I'll push him back down if he doesn't say hi. He's getting there. One thing I found that you can do before you come on the show, you can open another window up in Blab with your account, check your looks, your mic, and everything set, then close it down, then come back up. So that's
Liquid Web is another one that people are raving about. I'm on somebody's blog right now, and they actually it's James Schramko. It's a podcast that I listen to all the time, and his site is moving so fast, and I know that he has tons and tons of content out there, but I don't know how much he pays for it. I've never used it. I'm just saying that there's just so many different hosts out there.
Speed is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at a host, what you want when you're starting is you want good customer service. You want a simple cPanel. Those are the two things. Can you hear my echo a little bit?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah, I'm going to pause. I'll be right back.
Podcasting for so long, but now I'm doing them ahead of time. And so that's making the process and the flow a lot easier.
So the question we have, I want to get back on because the recording wasn't on. The question we have is, how do you integrate Blab and podcasting? And you can mention that again. Ms. Eileen, go over shortly again how you do it.
Okay. So I didn't realize we weren't recording. So
now, yeah,
when
helped me out. My deputy producer helped out.
When I record my shows, I do it normally. It's on the weekend because I'm trying to do it. Make sure I'm doing it at least once a week. I'll have my show notes already written out in advance, which makes a big difference. I let folks in the audience know that I'm recording, and I really don't interact with them that much unless I pause the recording or something like that. And then I might, take a drink of water, ask a question if someone's posted a question, and then I go back and turn the recording back on. But I position myself for a better sound on the mic. Then when I'm done with whatever it is I had written out, I open up the floor, and some of that makes it into the podcast, and sometimes it doesn't. It just all depends upon the quality and the content of the conversation, because sometimes the conversation just goes into a whole different topic, as you all know here on Blab.
Right, but we're staying pretty much on the context of this WordPress and Blab and podcasting, and I think it's really good. Let me my flow is this. I've really simplified on timelines at timelinesofsuccess.com. I've simplified my notes. So the night before, first of all, I had an automatic scheduling system. So I just put it up on here, the automatic scheduling system. People can look at it. Plus, Miss Eileen, I think you should come on and come on next one of these days. I got a couple openings next week. So you schedule, then you fill it out. Then I make the show notes from that little information. I keep my show notes relatively short ahead of time. Read the intro, and it's a simple daily podcast where we talk about, who you are, what you do, and then I like to do a little commercial, and then I come back on the podcast live. I'm trying to do everything via not having to do any post-production except a little cleaning, using, this to put the sound in. I can't use it, stuck on stuff. And, just so start with automatic scheduling, get your show notes up ahead of time, think about your show, do the show, but use the pause to make a good podcast, because you don't want all the other stuff in it. Now, if I'm doing a show like this, it's just going to go up on YouTube. I'll go ahead and just keep on running it as much as possible and put it up on YouTube. So anyway, so boom, so you can edit it. And that's where the podcasting snobs hate it. And I'm loving to watch the podcasting snob friends start using Blab slowly but surely, because they realize how much you can get done. Now, that said, the sound may not be perfect and there's other issues, but overall, sometimes I see the sound, the MP3 wave, better off than what a new podcaster can actually do, because they do some work on the sound. So anyway, that's the steps. What I do once we're done with the show, I go ahead and I pull the MP3 and I turn it into a wave, and I drop it in Adobe Audition. And sometimes I'll drop it in, depending on the sound, I'll either use some Photoshop work, not Photoshop, but Adobe Audition work on it, or I'll drop it into Levelator. And then from there, I'll pull it back off after I've done light editing, and start working at putting up in Libsyn. I've got a checklist. I'm doing this by my head. And so I'm doing a lot of things. I go by the way, I use my checklist. I don't try to do it in my head, because as soon as I get done with the show, and as soon as the MP3 or the show is up, I start uploading it to YouTube, because then I come around to my show notes. If you look at my sites, I've got iTunes, I've got Blab and YouTube all on the same sites. And another thing I've done too on my post is I make sure that the Blab is the read more, because when you open that up, if you happen to be on a show like we are now, you'll get an echo. If I get too many windows open, something pops open. So that said, that's that's sort of my flow. And I do a whole show in 2 hours, limited every day. Anyway. So
I just started using Blab for my podcast. I've only done one episode so far, but I plan on doing much more for this upcoming year. Actually, I wanted to try to start this weekend and try to crank out some podcasts, because I kind of took some cues from Eileen, because I've watched her do, and I was like, it makes sense from a content marketing standpoint to use Blab for your podcast, because I'm still using the mic that I normally use. And for me, when I go on a Blab, I just record the whole thing, because I don't want to, because I get so excited, and in the moment I miss some stuff and forget to hit the record button. Man, just miss some good information. And so I'll let it run, but because I'm pretty good at editing and cleaning things up, so I'll just go back through the whole Blab and I'll just chop things up, and you can just get so many bits of content out of there to include from your podcast.
Really?
And so
sounds good too.
Yeah, I know Lindsay had the question about using the embeds, and definitely Eileen does it really good. And she has the live Blabs posted on her website, or eileensmith.com, which is great, because the search feature here is a little bit lacking. So sometimes if I can't find her Blabs, I go over to her website. She strips the audio off of that, and then she uses it for her podcast, and she posts it up on YouTube also. So it's like a million things that you can do by using Blab. Blab just added on an extra layer to give you power to do some content.
Amen for Blab.
Yes, Eileen got it. She got it from the podcast community. But you'd stopped doing a podcast before Blab came along. You'd had a podcast, and then
I've actually been podcasting since 2009.
But you'd stopped podcasting for a while.
I was on hiatus. I really was, but I hadn't said that I wasn't going to do it anymore. I was spending too much time editing out my ahs and my ums. And like I said, I wasn't doing show notes until after. And this was prior to my daughter's team working with me with the graphics. So it was just too much. And guys, I have a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. So you're like split in two when you have a YouTube channel with tutorials. And I'm not just talking about my repurposed Blabs. I have those there too. But I have tutorials on YouTube and they take planning and, just as much as doing a podcast, if not more, but they're shorter, so in that sense, not more, but, so it's a big job. And you guys know I have a full-time job.
People would not know that by all the content that you post. Like they have no idea that you have another job. But I was like, how could she have another job? That's impossible.
The problem is my other job is incompatible with podcast anything. My other real job that I make the money at. I work overseas if I'm not doing this. So
mine's is too.
Lindsay, what do you do? What's your show?
Mostly when I'm in Blab, I listen to you guys.
Oh, Lindsay, you do a great job.
Hats off to you guys. I was just banging around waiting on my pal in France to come online. We're doing a Blab on iPhoneography. I've decided that I'm going to start being a complete novice in the area of using an iPhone as a primary camera. But I'm a little bit frustrated with Blab because we can't share screens. I'd like to be able to show what I'm talking about rather than talking about it. A picture is worth 1,000 words. And if you talk about, for instance, composition, and you want to have some, you want to discuss how you're using converging lines to give some sort of good feeling about it. You can only talk about it and you can't show it. And it's up to the imagination of your listener and watcher, to how much they'll get out of that. So being a long time WordPress person, by the way, my poison there is Genesis Framework and the Cobalt Apps app, whose name escapes me just at the moment. I've been using those quite a while to make money. I refer to myself as being retired but still inspired. So basically, I'm an old coot who jumps in the water occasionally and then back out, and to observe what's going on, see what happened to the water because I jumped into it. but what my question is that I'm doing the Blab and I'm getting it captured. I'd like to incorporate some sort of a website, a WordPress website thing that shows that we talked, embed perhaps the talk, and then show some of the things that we talked about. It's sort of an after the fact visual presentation of what we talked about. That seems not good to me. Luke and I experimented yesterday with using an iPad along with our Blab, and he was using his Logitech C920 to focus in on his iPad. That seems a little bit, kludgy also. I was wondering, you guys are professionals at what you do. I'm sure that you had to kludge some yourselves. Perhaps you have some really good techniques that you might suggest for me to use. How do I go from Blab to the rest of the world on the web?
Actually, the expert in that area, as far as I'm concerned, here on Blab, is in the audience, and that's Marty McFadden.
I love Marty. Marty does so good. I love him. I've got him. I try to follow him every time he comes on, as I do Miss Eileen.
But what he has is some professional grade equipment that I wouldn't recommend investing in.
Yeah.
And but they do have the XSplits and are you on PC or Mac?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay, yeah, XSplit and the Cam Twist.
I would not put Cam Twist in my Mac.
Okay, people are having, but I don't know how that works with bringing in. The only people that I've seen bring in the iPhone were using the TriCaster. And like I said, that's some expensive hardware there.
Hey Bill, how come you wouldn't recommend people put Cam Twist on their Mac?
No, Jonathan Denwood and I have done a show, and I'm around all these WordPress gurus, the big time guys, and some of the programmers. I put Cam Twist in my system, and it totally screwed up Skype, and it embedded itself everywhere. Now I didn't uninstall it. I forgot how I did it. So maybe if you put it in again, but bottom line is I had to go in the kernel of Mac with Google Plus Business folks, which are really good. I pay for that, and dig it out and clean it out. I had to do code at the kernel because it dug in so deep into my machine. It's not an authorized app, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put it in, you're going to have a hard time getting it out, I think. I think it's going to leave bits of code scattered around your site.
Yeah, I put it on mine, but I don't like to use it. I notice how it does kind of do a takeover on anything that you're using, but I was able to go into each app that I use it, like including Skype, and just change my defaults, and then I didn't have any problems with it. But I don't really like using it because like right now I have a clear picture because I'm using the Logitech 920C external camera. But when I use that Cam Twist, everything just gets really grainy and it doesn't look good at all. So I like the things that Cam Twist can do, but I don't like the way the quality of the picture shows. For sure.
You need to back it completely out of your computer.
So, Lindsay, to answer your question, I really don't think Blab is the answer for sharing what's on your iPhone, unless you're going to, I believe it's Wirecast that you need. And, but it's not cheap. But
Wirecast is nice.
Well, I am, so I spend a lot of money on equipment to do something that doesn't give me money back.
Tony just came in the room and he said he had to reset his Mac to get rid of Cam Twist as well. Yeah. So, and that's not going to solve your iPhone issue. No. So you may want to just take some screenshots, put together a PDF file, and have that, you can upload it to Google Docs like I do, or if you have a website, you can upload it to, just like you guys do on the Circadians.
Mm-hmm.
Just have that PDF file there and put that link in and let people know, okay, I'm on page 4, and then you could even hold it up and, as much as possible.
Good idea.
That's it. I mean, Blab cannot be the answer for everything we want to do. Because for real, honestly, from day one, when I got on here, I wanted to be able to screen share. I've been watching people for 160 some days play around with this cam twist, and they were so obsessed with these lower thirds. And people who have been following me know I've been saying, you don't need a lower third. You got a link up at the top of the screen. And then I've been seeing because what happened was Cam Twist updated. And so that's why a lot of people had problems with the first version was okay. And then they updated, and then ManyCam only works on PC. It doesn't work. And it's just been going round and round and round. And it's like, look, guys, this is what we have. We have a platform we can talk and communicate like with you. What we're doing now, if you want to bring in extra peripherals, unless you have Marty McPadden as your co-host, we hold it up like like Bill is doing, then you have to have the workaround, which is to have the PDF or a link, a SlideShare presentation that you can tell people, look, you're going to have to open that link. Now, if they're on their phone, they're not going to be able to do it. And you're just going to have to tell them, look, you can watch the replay later on, come back and get the links, or email me and I'll send you the presentation, because they're on the phone. There's just you can't have 2 windows open. You're on the phone, right? So, and since your topic is iPhoneography, that's why I'm bringing that up, because people will probably be on their phone.
Lindsay, do you have a website? Stick it on here. So, what I love about Blab is you can go back and pick the websites and links from people from the shows.
Okay, the website I have is not conducive to what we're talking about right now, but I would like to ask your permission to put up the address of the URL for the Blab that I'll be doing tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Absolutely. I'm really big on people dropping whatever that's not pornography, whatever they want on the side chat, because that's happening now. That's one of the.
It's funny that you said that, because I misspoke in one of my Blabs, and I referred to it as iPornography. Yeah. And we got a lot of wrong kind of attention from that.
Do you use an iPhone 6?
Yes, I have an iPhone 6 S Plus.
I bought when I went from the iPhone. I'm on the 5S. I'm on the S cycle, which is nice. I think it's a good cycle to be on. And I'm trying to, Eileen, it's really hard to make training. And so I'm trying to use this as my primary source. My wife uses it in real estate. But hey, I saw you're in the Air Force.
Yes, I was 22 years.
What'd you do in the Air Force?
I'm the only non-service person in the room.
Well, we were there for you, Eileen.
Okay, thanks, guys.
The major thing that I did a lot of things, but the major thing I did was computer related. I was involved with computer operated radars in an Air Force program called PELS, PLSS, and I spent a number of years with that. Then I was in configuration management of the same program with Lockheed when I got out of the Air Force. So got a lot of PELS in my system.
Yeah, interesting. I was 31 years active reserve, Army 9 years, Air National Guard, and back to the Army and finished my
How about that? Well, I was fortunate. I joined the Air Force out of Hazard, Kentucky. And that was the major thing that happened to me, is it took me away from there. I was enlisted for 12 years, and then through a scholarship program, I was able to go to school full time. Then I got a commission, so I retired as an officer. So it was a great life for me, and I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but it certainly has worked nicely for me.
Yeah, me too. I look back though, and I don't want to go over to Afghanistan anymore.
No.
Hey, no. I was in the military also. First I started out in the Army Reserve, and then I went over active Army, and I didn't retire, but I was in for like 8.5 years, and I came home for a number of years, and then I went back overseas to work for a subcontractor with the military, and I did that for like 7.5 years. So in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Who'd you work for? What'd you do over there?
I started out with KBR, which at the time was kind of like a sister company for Halliburton.
Yep.
And I actually worked in an accounting department there.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have to, worked on military bases, but I didn't have to work directly with anybody in the military. I just, I ate with them, slept with them, and all that stuff.
You slept with them?
Yeah.
Were you a Bagram?
Yes.
Not with your eye pornography, Lindsay.
In Afghanistan, I was stationed in Bagram. I was stationed in Kabul and also Kandahar. So I went to a few bases, and then I went to Iraq.
I was at Kaya.
Yeah.
Oh, Kaya's the pits, man. The pollution and the crap. Excuse my language.
I was lucky. I went to North Carolina 2 years ago.
Hey, you know what? I don't care what you
all
are.
over.
If you're a contractor, you're getting rocketed. I know you've been rocketed. It's just like, lucky the rocket didn't hit me today.
Yep. So where are you at, Bill? Or where were you? Did you work? I
went back in the Army for 5 years on a special program. I got to work. I'm a West Pointer, so all my classmates were generals, and they knew me. And some of the stuff I got to go back in anthropology. I did human train team systems. I a civil engineer. I first worked with setting up the government of Afghanistan in small teams. I'd been a vice mayor of a city of 200,000 when the war broke out, and a reservist in the Air National Guard. I was activated at 10 o'clock in the morning in the Air National Guard. I flew H-860s and some other things. But then they grabbed me up for the Defense Threat Reduction Agency because I was a city councilman. So I worked with the big cities on threat assessment, and I've been chairman of public safety too. And then from there, I said, I've been recalled enough. I might as well go back in active duty. And the Army had a program to come back in active duty to do civil military operations, which when I was a young officer, I went to flight school as a captain, but I was a Green Beret when I was a young officer. So it fit perfect. And I really loved it. I didn't like being away from my family. And it was dangerous when I look back in retrospect.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a fascinating thing to do. And I never really did go back in contract. I was forced to work for BAE for 4 months on a special program in between some things that they wanted me to do. But I was going to go back in contract, and I just didn't do that. And I started podcasting instead. And now I've got to monetize or go back in contract because I've got 2 girls who are high-level gymnastics, and that's a very expensive sport.
Let me scoot out of here, guys. I think.
Hey, Lindsay, it's nice. I heard you talk about one thing before you go. You talked about the group that you're in. I've watched it in the morning.
Oh, it was the Circadians.
Circadians. Tell us about Circadians.
I'm no longer a member of that, but I will tell you about it. They meet. If you remember, it's a paid thing. If you remember, they meet at 8 o'clock every morning. The motto is getting stuff done, and it's a guru-free zone. Try to solve problems within 25 minutes or less.
Wow.
There are a number of people in there from varied backgrounds, as well as from different geographical locations in the world, and not necessarily just in the States. One of the projects has been to teach people how to use Blab, the basics of using Blab. And then there's been another one that we also did that was how to host a Blab.
Yeah.
And that's been quite successful, and we've had lots and lots of people join us for that conversation. So that may be where you see me. I see that I'm following you from somewhere, and I'm trying to remember from where I've followed people generally who follow me and whose profile looks like someone I would be interested in talking to. So somewhere we cross paths that way. I run into Eileen everywhere.
Yeah,
out in the hallway drinking coffee and hunching down by a window or hiding behind a partition. Or no, she doesn't.
Well, I'd like to invite you and everybody. Eileen, I miss Eileen on my daily show, but come on Timelines. You see the link. If you go to Timelines. Let me put the link in again.
Okay, yeah, because it's probably so far up.
And what are Timelines about, Bill?
It's what I did was I went back in anthropology, and there were oral interviews when I started. My first one's my favorite, which is my uncle, who's a P-39 pilot at Guadalcanal. So it's basically what it's evolved to now, because I'm trying to make it actually grow and monetize it after 156. It's basically the first 10 minutes is about you, your background, and what you do. And then I take a break. I do a commercial. The next 10 minutes is 3 things or 4 or 5 things that help you with your life success principles. And I've written those down from everybody who I've talked to. and maybe a book. So it's real simple. And then finally, you do a commercial. It's 25 minutes. And then I ask you one last question. So it's about a 25-minute show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really researching Blab, how to use Blab. And it goes up to YouTube immediately. And then 2 hours later, I'm on iTunes. I do it every day at 9 o'clock.
Every day at 9 o'clock?
Pacific.
Okay, that'll be 11 o'clock my time then.
Yes.
So
I would love to join you.
Anyway, if you go to the interview link, just fill it out. I've got some. Now, next week's a little different. Miss Eileen, you would be perfect next week. We're going to talk about 3 things that the person did right this year. And then the second half, we're going to talk about 3 things that they want to do better next year.
But you only do this on weekdays, right?
I do it Monday through Friday. Then on Saturday, I'm going to put up, I'm changing. I've done it Saturday too. What I'm going to do Saturdays, I'm going to come up live Blab like this, something similar to this. We're just talking, put it on YouTube. Then I'm going to do a review of the last 5 days, just a commentary. And I've got that new Libsyn reader. You can put that in there, and you can have like the last 5 shows pop up. It's really nice.
Yeah, I have it on top of.
Can you guys talk a little bit about what you think about the Libsyn reader? Okay.
Lindsay, thank you.
You mean the widget? You mean the widget,
yes,
the player? Yeah. Okay.
Lindsay,
Well, first, just to cover, Bill, what you were asking me. I'm at work, so I'm not going to be able to make it. And then on the weekend,
Saturday. Why don't we do a Saturday?
And then on the weekend, I'm trying to schedule and figure out what I'm going to do with my podcast. And the only reason why I jumped in here today instead of working on my podcast, because I told everybody I might not do it this weekend. Because
it takes 25 minutes. Now, here's the
benefit. I might just repurpose this.
here's the benefit of going on the show, and you should know this. It takes 25 minutes. It's on timelines. You're going to get SEO off of iTunes because it's going to show up in another little place where you've been on timelines when people put in your name. And it's going to, I've got pretty good SEO on that site. So it's going to help you SEO wise, hooking back and forth. So it helps your show. So that's why you should come on. Let's just set up a Saturday sometime next year. One Saturday next year.
Yeah. That's a true salesman talking there.
I'm not wealthy though.
I just wanted to say something real quick to Blue Streak Science. Yeah, I interviewed Joey. Joey was on here. He wanted Joey Kissimmee. Remember I mentioned earlier, Joey was the developer for the Appendipity themes. He's somebody it's almost like a rags to riches story of a guy that used to work at Walmart. And he started doing internet marketing. He has a family, and he just decided that he was going to leave Walmart and start doing this online thing. And he did that, but he didn't really find his, should I say, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow until he started making these themes that are specifically for podcasters. And next year, he's coming out with plugins. But Joey's doing so well that he actually is off November, December, and January.
Nice.
He's taking 3 months off. And so in February, he'll come back. But right before he left is when we had the interview. But yeah, you can go to my live page and watch the replay, Blue Streak Science. So he was blabbing. He's into it. He loves Blab, especially because he sees how easy and how well it works with podcasting.
Oh, it does. It does. It's got to be shaking up our podcast snob friends.
Yeah.
And we were snobs too.
You have to scroll down and because he's not at the top of the page because I did another one that's at the top of the page. I need to reorganize that live page a little bit better. But
your artwork.
Probably tomorrow I'll be recording, or maybe this evening. I have to go somewhere with my daughter, and then if I feel like it, I'll write out some show notes and maybe wind up recording my podcast this evening. So stay tuned, guys. Following me on Twitter, and you'll find out when I'm going live.
Hey, I got a question for both of you guys. I know we didn't address the Libsyn question, but my question is on scripting. How you guys feel? Do you use the scripting, and how do you feel about it? I know for me, I'm terrible when it's not scripted. I'm kind of all over the place. And so it's always better for me to have a little bit more than just notes to do my podcasting. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, that was part of my workflow. That's what made it so that I could start podcasting again. besides Blab, was the fact that instead of writing my show notes after the fact, I do them before the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily have to read them word for word. You know, they're not a transcript, so to speak.
Right.
They're just, in other words, before I always did an outline. I always had my talking points listed.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm writing more of what I'm going to say. And it really helps me in the end when I make the blog post. And the blog post is not just a bulleted list of,
Right.
well, she talked about this, and this. Because, you know, that's almost like a waste of a blog post.
Elizabeth,
you know, in terms of SEO and all that stuff.
Before 9/11, I worked on a lot of campaigns. In fact, we had we had a real estate company. We also had a marketing company. In that marketing company's clients were politicians, and I really got to know a lot about campaigning. All politicians use talking points. They memorize about 20 different paragraphs in their heads, and then they mix them together. I think to be really good on this platform, you find something that's similar, you memorize those 20 points, and then you write those out. I was right next to Dole, standing right next to the podium, a couple of different places with him, and we'd flip open his talking points, and we just rearrange them for different places. So he'd do maybe 3 or 4 speeches in a day. He was just rearranging the paragraphs, and it came out really nice. So I think the talking point idea is a great way to get really good at doing a show. I think John Lee Dumas is an example of using a framework, and it's sort of like a talking point. He uses the same thing every day. Now, that's not my style. I want to break it up a little bit, but use similar systems. So, hey, no, Eileen, we didn't talk about John Lee Dumas.
Oh, okay. And actually, I'm in the middle of listening to an interview that Mike Stelzner did with John Lee Dumas. So that was nice to hear John being interviewed. But like I said, I'm in the middle of it, so I don't want to pass judgment yet because I didn't hear what they're all talking about. I was on my way back from the hair salon, and I was like, okay, let me put that one on. But to answer Elizabeth's question about the Libsyn's widget, I actually installed it at the top of the basic blog tips. So if you want to take a look. So that's one other thing that I love about that theme. I can put any widget I want right up in the header of my blog theme if I want. And there's no tweaking or nothing like that. It's just the option, just one of the widgets. But normally I don't have a widget. And I'm just testing this because the Libsyn player just they just updated the player that way about a week and a half ago. I want to say 2 weeks ago at the most. And so I'm just testing it there to see if people, because none of that content is over there. In other words, I'm mixing 2 different blogs, guys, for the record, if anybody's listening to this later. I didn't want to put it up on the header of my Eileen Smith blog because that's where it is. And I don't have a sidebar on Eileen. Now, if I had a sidebar on eileensmith.com, I would put it in the sidebar. But I don't have a sidebar. Right. So it was one of the things I love about that theme. If I want to put the sidebar on the left, I click a button. If I want to put it on the right, I click a button. If I want no sidebars, I click a button. And I can change it on every single page or post. I can have it on different sides, no sides, or whatever. So anyway, right now I have none. And I'm just, seeing how that feels for a while. And I'm getting a lot of people when they look at it, they're like, oh, wow, I love this. What are you using? And actually, there's another thing, because Appendipity is a suite of themes. And since I have, the license, I can put up any one I want. So there's another one that has the big hero image at the top. I just got a big hero image.
Isn't it interesting how people feel like that they're married to that sidebar? Because you kind of start out with the sidebar and you don't want to lose it. And people just kind of pile things in there. And then, it really becomes a distraction at some point. So,
you just keep piling stuff on there. And, you got your opt-in form. Then you put your, here's where you start here. Here's where you search. Here's this, here's that. And it's like, okay. How about I
love it. I love a search. I'm big into search. I want to see search right at the top in a blog, on a WordPress or an iTunes. If you have iTunes, I want to be able to search the episodes really fast. I think a basic blog format like they have in Genesis with your sidebar with a search on top is a perfect platform for podcasting.
Now, actually, I love the search. I agree with you. But luckily, I'm in two worlds right now. I have a well-established blog with over 500 posts, and I have a brand new blog with only 10 posts. So there ain't nothing really to search. It's only 10 posts on there.
Yeah, but it'll grow.
So, eventually I'll figure out where I'm going to stick it, because I can always put it in a footer, if I so decide to do that. But right now I don't have that issue.
So Bill, are you using the Libsyn player, the new player that came out?
Last night I was just playing with it. I'm going to actually put it up today on today's. I'm going to do an editorial type show today for Timelines, and I put the player up, and I liked it. It fits anywhere. It's just code. It drops in. Though they limit, it's 450 is the width, and that's not good for a sidebar.
Mm-hmm.
The 450, you need about 330 max.
Yeah. One thing that I wish they would do a little differently with that player is I wish that I could indicate exactly which episodes I want in there. Right now, it's only either from starting with your first episode or starting with your last episode. Mm-hmm. But I would like, because there is one place where I have a series, of 5 episodes that I would like to have that widget with just those 5 episodes. They're not at the beginning and they're not at the end. And so I would like to be able to stick. And maybe that's something that they'll do over time. I don't know, because this thing just came out.
Yeah, I also noticed that I don't know if you guys follow Pat Flynn. He actually has a software that kind of does the same thing. It almost has the same look as that player that Libsyn has as well.
I gotta tell you, okay, first, Elizabeth, every podcaster follows Pat Flynn.
That was a dumb question.
Okay.
I love it.
We may not all like John Lee Dumas, but everybody loves a Pat Flynn. If you don't like Pat Flynn, you better get on it, okay?
Yeah.
So anyway, but I got to tell you, with that player, and I've been on 2 or 3 blogs in the last 3 days, I can't advance the player.
Oh, no.
Like, in other words, I've listened to the first 15 minutes. So now I'm doing something else. I come back and I want to just move that along. And I don't know if it's the person's blog. I don't know if it's the player. But then I saw it on a different blog and I'm like, okay, so now this is more than one. So it's not that particular person. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for that yet because I didn't try to. It's not one that I'm using. So I'm, but that was annoying to me.
Yeah.
But the app and the wonderful thing about Appendipity is that he has worked with every single. He's worked with the guys at PowerPress to make sure that there's no conflicts. He's worked with Pat Flynn's. He's also worked with Hani. Somebody mentioned earlier about the Simple Live Press plugin. He's worked with Hani. So all that stuff is integrated. And you don't have to use any of those. You can just use the built-in players and Appendipity, and he has more than one style that you can use. So that's
good information to know.
But you got, when you're podcasting too, it's easy to go get too much stuff. So I would start with Blueberry Basics or Libsyn's player when you're starting. What do you use?
I'm using Blueberry.
Yeah, it's a good player.
I like Blueberry. I tried some other ones, and sometimes they conflict with some of the other mini plugins that I got on my website. But I had pretty good luck with Blueberry Press, so I'll probably keep that one. I like it.
And actually, Libsyn has a plugin now too.
I saw that.
They are telling people that if you're already using Blueberry, don't switch over to the Libsyn plugin. Because, let me clarify that, okay, guys, because somebody who may be listening to this may not know what I'm talking about. Blueberry is a podcasting host, but they also make a plugin called PowerPress, which is by far the most widely used plugin by podcasters that use WordPress. Okay, so when we say Blueberry, we could be talking about their hosting, or we could be talking about the PowerPress plugin. But in this case, we're actually talking about the PowerPress plugin from Blueberry. Just to clarify that, because that could get confused, almost confuse me for a minute. Hey, Miles.
How you doing, Eileen?
I'm great.
Great, guys. Thanks. I just had a quick question for you. I've been listening in and off this morning on the day after Christmas here and enjoying the conversation. Question for you guys. Have you done, or have any of you had experience doing a podcast and the Blab at the same time using two different channels going out?
I haven't, but I'm pretty sure that's how Dave Jackson is doing with Ask the Podcast Coach. And there's another podcast. Oh, Tyler Anderson. He hasn't been doing it on Blab as much lately, but he has been doing his podcast, and I'm pretty sure he's doing it that way as well.
Miles, I want to clarify what you just said. If you have a mixer and you just have an RL5 or a Zoom or some way to record it, you could just record the sound coming in and out.
Right.
But the MP3 that comes down off of Blab is fine.
Right. No, I meant at the same time, though. I mean, so as an example, we're doing we have a show we do every week that's been a podcast through Voice America for years, and we're broadcasting over Skype audio, no video, and at the same time we have Blab up. So we're having our guests and our interviews where actually people are seeing it live and listening to it on Blab or the podcast. But we have two different channels going. I was just curious because there's times when our guests get kind of confused on what do I mute and what do I have live? And I've heard people say Skype doesn't work with Blab and all that. But I just was curious what you guys are using for all that.
Now, there's another set of podcasting team, but I'm not sure if they worked it out. Todd Cochran, along with Rob Greenlee, do the New Media Show. And Todd was trying to figure out a way to broadcast live on YouTube. Of course, Todd has the TriCaster. That's that expensive equipment that I mentioned earlier, guys. And the last time I checked in with them, he hadn't figured it out, only because he hadn't had time. He was coming back from some other event. And so they just did it on Blab. And right before I decided to come into this room, I saw that Todd and Rob were recording the show here on Blab, but I picked this room instead of that one. So I don't know if he did it simultaneously on YouTube Live or not. But with that, there's no chat or anything like that involved with that. But Marty, I'm not saying that he needed the TriCaster to stream on YouTube Live. That's what he was trying to use in order to be on Blab and YouTube Live at the same time. Okay, so and I don't know if he ever achieved that goal or not. But another person that you might want to check with is Daniel J. Lewis, because I know that he likes to have a live show, and I'm not sure how he's doing it, because that Once Upon a Time podcast, which I don't listen to because I don't even watch the TV show, is one that he likes to do live in a couple of different places. So you might want to check with him.
Perfect. Thanks, gang. I'll let you go, but thanks. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Miles, hold a second. How do you get 25,000 people following on Twitter?
That's part of my business over at Fill the Funnel, Bill. Great question.
I saw Fill the Funnel. I just looked at your website. Hey, I just put an invitation. Why don't you come up on Timelines, 25 minutes. You get a commercial on the backside.
Great.
It's a good deal.
Yeah.
You get a commercial. People understand that. That's a link.
Absolutely. Let's explore it. Yeah, my business is tools and tech, and I focus primarily in the business-to-business sales environment. But absolutely, that's why I was so curious, because we're finding, like, when we're doing this, we've done a show now for a couple of years on Voice America that, and we, you build an audience on iTunes and all that in the podcast, but we're finding about 4 months ago now, we started doing the simulcast, and it's been really interesting to watch the interaction because of chat and everything in Blab. Once we started doing the simulcast, our numbers went up on both platforms. And my co-host never really was on Blab before. So, I'm just finishing up this next week, a series where something we call Fire Starters. And every morning at 7:00, we do a little 12-minute interview with someone. We've had a bunch of them up, I don't know, 25 or something, and the interaction of people, even at 7 a.m. Pacific time, is substantially more because they can not only see and hear, but they can chat and ask questions and do all that. So we're having a ball. But Bill, let's do it. Let's connect offline, and I'd love to explore that with you.
Yeah, it's real simple. I've got a couple slots open next week. You can see, I just put the links in there. Just come up, and I actually use the phone still. People can still call me on the phone. And when you call on the phone, you only have to worry about the NSA. See, people
they know me well, believe me.
That used to be I was in that business, so in a weird way, in a different way, I fairly, as high level security clearance as you can imagine. So,
yeah,
it's always crazy coming on these open shows like this. And I can't. I was watching a show yesterday, and someone was complaining about, I don't think I'm going to use Blab because too many people coming on. And it's like a kid, and I said, get tough, man. Don't be such a wimp. It's one of my friends who was hosting it with him.
Well, that's probably, I've seen so many folks that come on here and their first reaction. In fact, I remember this one guy, I called him out on it too. His very first blab was, I hate Blab.
He's a podcast.
He's been on here almost every single day.
Well, I'm going to start doing this at 9:00 on Saturdays.
We're really getting hot now because, Miles is heating things up.
Miles,
listening to the audio, y'all can't see what he's doing here, but he's on fire.
Great, guys.
Oh, God.
Just keep it up. As I said, I've been getting some great links and some great ideas from all of you. So I just enjoy the conversation here.
So who builds your websites?
I do.
You're on the show. You got to answer. This is a whole. So what do you use?
My preference today, I use a combination of two things. I am a huge fan of Thrive themes.
Yeah.
I love not only their themes, but all the tools that they have if you belong to that membership program. And I use Optimize Press quite a bit for all of our landing pages for marketing. And I use a bunch of others as well, but those are the primary go-to. When I'm at crunch time and I've got a webinar, a live event, whatever we're going to go do, I'll use Thrive themes for all of my blogs. I've got, like 12 of them out there, but of my own. But for all of my landing pages, synchronization to go to webinar and Webinar Jam and all that, I'll always use Optimize Press just because I've known it. I've used it long enough now. And I love the way they look. I just think it's a great look and feel to it.
And who your host? Who do you use for hosting?
No one's ever heard of it. Bluehost.
I have Bluehost Cloud 3-year contract, and it's great. Other than their service, I use CamTwist too. Not CamTwist, but SiteGround. Yep. But Bluehost is really improved, especially their cloud hosting.
I haven't moved. I have one client that's asking me about moving over to the cloud. I've been on Bluehost for about 9 years now. I've been doing Fill the Funnel for over 9 years. And even the service for me, I don't know, none of my other tech tools that we use or providers have 24 hours, 7-day a week tech support. And I might be on hold on weekends and the really busy days when everyone's off from their normal jobs, if you will. I might be on hold for 30 minutes. I just put it on speakerphone and go do other things. But they're there, and I've had probably 2 cases over 9 years, which was sad for me to think. I think I know more than the person I'm talking to.
I've had that happen too.
Yeah, but it's very rare. And the people, I've had people call me back 3 days later, going, "Hey, just want to double check. Is everything working now? Did we fix that?" And I thought, who does that? So they're inexpensive. They're big. They're the big corporate structure now with all these companies they bought. But the bottom line is, I like the people. I like the way they handle their business overall, and I still think it's. And I'm on a shared, hosted environment, and I have 2 different accounts with them. One of them is the pro level, where I run my real, like Eileen said, Eileen Smith is really where it's at. That's my Fill the Funnel. But New Tools for Business, Miles Lost, all the other ones are not even on the pro level. Now I'm just looking at my list. I've got almost 90 websites hosted between those 2 accounts on Bluehost.
Oh yeah, you can do that on Bluehost. You definitely do that.
I don't have an issue because for most of these things, unless you're one of you famous people, other than my primary site, I might get 100 or 200 visitors a day. That's not going to bring any web host, hopefully, to their knees.
Right. So here's the second question. With that many websites, what are you using to maintain your plugins?
Boy,
you got to have some kind of auto system. I'm using Jetpack right now. Jetpack's actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, I do, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. I do most of my client work that I do, where we do consulting and back end stuff with them, is all done manually because I'm always afraid to automate a lot of things that are at the individual customer level. And I'm trying to think. The tool I'm using, I'm trying to think what the name of it is. It's built by Robert Plank and Lance Timoshero, and I can't remember what it is.
Talking about too.
Yeah, because they have a podcast, and so he's always talking about it. But I can't recall the name of it either.
It'll pop to my head. But yeah, in fact, I'll tell you what. When I jump off, I'll go find the link. At least give you the name in the chat. It's but it's funny because for me, I still don't use them all the time. Now the difference is compared to maybe the average person that is dabbling in blogging or something. I'm in almost all of my sites at least twice, 3 times a week. Some of them multiple times a day.
Well, that's good. I have I use Jetpack, has a nice little system on there for the small sites. But one thing about Bluehost, it's amazing, is they have a very, very good backup system. I've had to recover twice now in 2 years, one of my 17 sites, and Bluehost just brought it right back. Every day they update it.
Absolutely. As I said, they get a lot of heat. Anytime you get big and you start acquiring, you kind of become a bad guy in some people's minds, and they're easy to pick on. The fact is, they have never dropped the ball for me. I've had outages and all that. I've had a couple sites hacked, and like you said, they were on it. Now, I also have backup, capabilities as well. But no, as I said, I always smile when people are bad mouthing them, and usually when they're bad mouthing Bluehost, there's then follows is a link to some other host where they're an affiliate. So you just take it with a grain of salt. So
what are you on a PC right now?
Yes.
And what are you using for your effects?
Great question. Great question.
We've got a real skilled guy here. So we're
no, guys, it is to me, and I've tried Cam Twist and Minicam and all of them. And every client that we work with now, we're doing a lot of work in the Blab and the video piece, and all of them are using this product I'm using called SparkoCam from Sparkomatic. It's based in Europe. There's no affiliate programs, or it's kind of a weird thing. But here's really the power. I'm just using a C920 camera.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I have clients, and where you really obviously get the fun is if you've got DSLR or depth of field kind of capabilities. They have the only product I've seen. It's only PC based, but it works day in and day out with video, with graphics, just fixed screen. We do a lot of work with sponsors on some of the things that we do. So we have, the back screen, if you will, is all company logos. But Sparkomatic and the product itself is called SparkoCam. The real thing that caught my eye early on with these guys, they continue to update, is that they have drivers, not just for standard webcam work like I'm using right now, but drivers for Canon and Nikon DSLRs to turn your Nikon or a Canon camera into a webcam. So now you've added all the depth of field and all the really cool effects that people say, Miles, how do I, the usual question is, how do I fuzz out my background in video, right? So SparkoCam gives you the ability to do, I love your comment about lower thirds, and you're right, but I can get graphics. I'm actually because we do a lot of training in my business. And so what we're doing is moving over to the side and starting to put text up here, like bullet points as we're presenting, right? And all of that can be done with SparkoCam.
Well, I got another question. What do you use for learning management system? See, we're hitting them. Boom. What do you like?
Boy,
this is great because we're getting really experts on, and these are the questions we're asking today.
Yeah. So give me a little bit more. When you say learning management system, give me what specifically in there? Because
there are a million platforms right now for learning management. That's the future. Like Lynda is a learning management system. It's where you record your training and you put it up and you sell it. Teachable is the one that Eileen is using, and it's one I'm going to.
I'm biased because I'm a huge believer in own the real estate you live on. And so all of our training is done usually with Amazon or something on the backside hosting it. But I've tried Udemy. I've gone through Linda. We've done several of these, and I'm always scared to death because I hate it when they change my operation or it impacts my operation. So we're doing video and audio and transcripts and live chat kind of scenarios, all behind a firewall, behind a membership platform on WordPress.
I was going to go that way, and I was advised to go that way by different people, but that can be tough to get it all working right. So what's a plugin?
Well, there's a bunch. Smart Member, Swift Member.
Yeah.
I've done Wish List. I've done all. I mean, we do them. I have probably 12 active membership plugins right now, or
wow. That's hard to
keep
all those straight in your head.
It is, but again, remember, my job, my business is knowing web tools and train. We've got almost 500 web tools in our what we call our toolkit. So we have to be prepared to go talk, install, recommend based on the specific unique needs of each customer. And so, there's not one, as you guys, I would think, would agree, there's never one, including Blab versus Periscope versus GoToWebinar versus Webinar Jam versus there's always multiple solutions. And it really depends, at least in my eye, it depends on what is it that you're trying to do, what's your budget, what's your culture, what are your resources, and then based on all those criteria and some more, then we can go, let me guide you this way or that.
Miles, I think you're in a great business right now because I was just talking to somebody from the East Coast, and I'm in Reno, Nevada. We're exploding right now with Tesla and technology. We're the world's largest business park. And all these guys, all these manufacturers, in fact, I had the top guy from the second vice president of the newspaper come and talk to me. They're trying to figure out how to do what we are doing out here in the crazy YouTube Blab land, what we are doing. These big guys are trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they can't do it.
Well, and it's really funny because I do work with some corporate clients, and you're absolutely right. What they try to do is bring a $20,000 package of resources to the table. And I said, guys, get it out of the room. You're taking up my space. Let's plug in, dial into something like Blab. And when they see it, their eyes just get big and their jaw drops. Because a lot of them, as an example, maybe have dabbled over last year or two with Google Hangouts, and they just throw up their hands. It's neat idea, it's free and all that. But it was just too confusing, not only as the user and the presenter, but as guests to come on and even viewers. It's just like, where do I go?
The UI is really good in this platform as it evolves.
I agree.
I got to say, guys, I got to jump here and say I was on 2 webinars where there was a guy presenting live streaming, for your business. And I'm like, you don't need a webinar. And he was going through all the different things. And one of the presidential candidates said, oh, gosh, I got to get on here with this live streaming thing. And, this is the reason why you guys should all be live streaming. And I'm thinking, yeah, if you guys knew how easy it is, you would not be.
Oh, he took off.
But then again, I was thinking, well, maybe some of you guys may want to think about doing that, as a business, like Bill, you were saying earlier. You might want to just go out there to these corporate folks and say, yeah, I'll set up your live stream for you. Mm-hmm. Well, just give me your Twitter side.
Remember we talked about the first part of the show, all those different job positions. I'll go Miles on this too, because hey, Miles.
Yep.
That was a blabism. You dropped off. We talked earlier in the show. We talked about all the things there is to do to really do well. And you have to be a producer, an engineer, a webmaster, a host, the actor or actress. Actor, I guess is appropriate.
The talent.
The talent. You have to be the talent. I like that. That's a better word, talent. You have to be the editor, the copyright. And we talked about copywriting. And then the marketing. If you can't market and you can't make money, unless you're independently wealthy and love doing this like I do, you've got to make some money too. So there's a lot of things. And then the website, you have to be a graphics designer, a host. So this is not as easy as we say it is, but you can blab pretty easily though.
Absolutely. And I think all of us that have been doing this, all of you have been doing your websites and WordPress and all this for a while. I think we do a disservice to those that are thinking about this, because I know I have this is easy. Give me an afternoon and we'll just dazzle you.
Yeah.
That's the problem, because I've been doing it for a long time like you guys have. And I forget how basics. I have a client, we're literally we're teaching them this last 2 weeks how to start Twitter. And and I'm just amazed. And there's days over in the years past, I did years and years of work, large scale work training on LinkedIn. And I just got tired of, well, but you need a photo. And this is a headline, not your title, and all those kinds of, right? It's still needed. I just got tired of it. It doesn't mean that everyone now knows LinkedIn. It's just I'm tired of talking about it.
Right.
Well, the person who teaches that
LMS.
Yeah.
Oh, LMS is good where you this, and this, or do a real quick little training and send it out. I would just like people to rate my iTunes.
Yes.
But they don't have an iTunes account.
Now, you know, it's funny because I do have one, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't rate someone's iTunes on my PC for some reason. My iTunes setup somehow was confusing as heck. I went upstairs, fired up my Mac. It was boom, 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 and I rated it, and we're done. So we just, because we fiddled around with this stuff is my technical term, but we fiddled around with this stuff so long we've got it figured out, and now we kind of forget what it's like when you're brand new, you're coming in, kind of the newborn, and you're naked. You're going, what do I do, and where do I find the clothes to make me work in this environment?
iTunes ratings are overrated.
Right.
Look how many people. Look at that number up at the top of the page here. You had 101 people in here so far in this Blab.
In 24, about 20 to 24.
If you get 100 people listening to your podcast episode in 2 hours that you've been on here.
Yep.
Well, this is not good. This is going to go up to YouTube. It won't go on podcasting, but I'm doing a short podcast course today.
I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
That's all. I just don't like when people get so obsessed with the whole ratings and reviews and new and noteworthy. That's how I feel. The same way I feel about the lower thirds, guys.
Well, let me really stir the pot. We have a new offer coming out. I found a lot of people, and I was one of these that always blew off the importance in business of clout and clout scores.
Oh, clout.
And I was slapped right across the face, almost literally, by two potential customers, two speaker engagements for me, which were nice 5-figure deals, and I lost out on both of them over the last couple of months. And as I always try to do, try to learn why. What did I do wrong? Where was I lacking? Whatever. And in both cases, about 2 to 3 weeks apart, both of them said you were in that final group, but we had to narrow it down in one case to 3 and one to 4 for our conference. And your clout score wasn't as high as those others. And I finally said, for the first time in my experience, now I know why I should start to pay attention to clout.
Now you can have different clout scores because they're based on your login, which is it Twitter?
Yeah. Well, yes, correct.
It's Twitter primarily. So I have
Twitter or Facebook, or just do even your email address if you want to.
Right,
Yeah,
but
you have to make sure that all your important networks are connected with clout. So in other words, even if you logged in with Twitter and you're pretty good with Twitter, but you post something funny on Facebook last week that had absolutely nothing to do with your business, but you get a lot of likes on your Facebook stuff because you're posting memes. Who knows Steve Harvey and what he did with this flub up that he did, because that's all I see on Facebook now is Steve Harvey jokes. But my point is I'm trying to make, guys, is with clout, they want you to connect your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your YouTube, if you have YouTube, and if you have a Facebook page. They want you to connect all of your important channels into that one cloud account. So, and even Instagram now, I believe.
Yes.
Or Pinterest, one of the two. But I know I connected one of my accounts, and all of a sudden my score shot up. But the last time my score shot up from a 71 to an 80,
wow, it's high,
was because of Blab.
Yep.
Because all these people now are following me on Twitter and interacting with me, because like now, I don't know how many folks have tweeted out this particular Blab, but it's been, a fair amount. But just being on Blab, people follow you, they interact with you, they're talking to you, you're talking to them, thanking them for tweeting this, that, and the other. And so that makes your clout score. So you already have it built in, Miles. You probably just don't have all the right pieces connected in the puzzle. But it won't take much time. And in fact, there's a Facebook group. If you and I are connected on Facebook,
I think we are.
And I'll invite you into that group. The girl that wrote the clout book.
Miles, you said a product. Drop the product in if you can, a link. Mm-hmm. And Miss Eileen, real fast. What if you have Twitter accounts? You can only hook like one, right?
That's a problem.
Here's the problem I have. I've got like,
you just want to pick a main one.
Well, you can have a clout. You can have a clout account for different Twitter accounts.
Yeah, but then that's going to spread out that could spread out your score. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because I'm saying connect all, because you can only connect your Facebook to one. You can only connect your LinkedIn to one. So Twitter that you use, you want to have a main one that you could even say, you can even refer to that in your Twitter bio. Like, for example, Bill, if you have, let's just say you have one that's also Bill Conrad, right? Then you want to also, in your podcaster's home bio, you want to say, AKA, or I'm also Bill Conrad. So that if this situation like Miles was just describing ever comes up, then the people that are looking at your clout score, they're going to look and they're going to say, oh, he's also got this other Twitter account. So that's the one we should be looking at. Yeah. You know, I mean, if they're that savvy that they're actually looking at the clout score, they're smart enough to read your Twitter bio.
Yep. Yeah, and I think some of the comments are I'm reading from Mike MC Phillips and some of the other ones. Guys, it's everything I've always thought. Look, they can be gamed, that's true, but it just cost me maybe $25,000 because I was blowing it off and not taking at least a little time to kind of figure out the basics and really put some effort in. So I mean, I agree. For me,
I agree with what you're saying. It's that, you won't build an audience. Hey, by the way, you're talking about putting your name in and stuff. I thought you see the jebbush.com. Everybody go click that.
I know.
This is a politician. No. I've been in politics prior to 9/11. I was like, I worked in politics. This is I know the nasty game, especially in California and the oligarchy and all the crap that's coming out now. But Jeb Bush is running a 1980s campaign in 2016 and 2015. Honestly, the people he's got surrounding him are his dad's guys, and they're not connected. And this cycle is going to be more social media than the possible. But they're truly. And then Trump has got some smart people he hired, and he's doing this new modern campaign. And it's just this communications thing. And that's the old oligarchy is getting wiped out right now.
Bill, I know I liked you already, but I was a political science major, and so I spent a little time early in my life in politics as well. So we probably have a lot we could talk about. I love it.
I lost to Gary Condit I'm a Republican. I'm safe Republican district. I lost to a Democrat called Gary Condit when I'm in my 30s. And I was, I went to all the schools and they taught me. And then I won city council, vice mayor, and I started studying and said, how do I get people elected at the grassroots level? I had a marketing company, and I just after the war, I haven't been in it since. So. No. But I'm just saying that Jeb Bush.
I'm sorry, guys. I gotta get ready to go. So I just wanted to thank you for having me on. It's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. You guys can carry on.
Next Saturday, 9:00, I'll be up on this, doing this.
Oh, okay. Well, see, now you're giving me a time, so that's good. I might be able to rearrange my schedule around your time.
Well, no, we'll do a special for you first, because I do the timelines interviews at 9:00 every 9:00.
Oh, 9:00. You're in a different time
Pacific,
zone than me.
That's 12:00 your time. You know what?
I forgot about that.
Just block off sometime this year.
Okay, I will.
And then I do the interview. Then we'll go on to this show. But normally I don't do an interview on Saturday, but I'll do an interview Saturday morning.
Okay. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Miss Eileen.
Going area rug shopping with my lovely daughter.
Yeah. Hey, Miles, we haven't talked graphics yet. How do you do? Would you do your own graphics?
I do quite a bit of them. I use Fireworks still from Adobe.
Right.
It's a terrible habit, but I'm starting to use a lot of the software as a service tools. I think I'm doing like Magic Mockups has been a fun one. Cover Genie Pro, eCover Creator for all of our ebooks that we do. Those tools, all software based on the web. They're phenomenal. And so it's funny because I'm not known as a graphics guy at all. I have a very bad talent in that area, but I squeak by. But those tools are starting to make me look like I actually have a clue.
What was that used for ebooks?
There's two of them I use. One of them is a software as a service called CoverGeniePro.com. And that's a great product. Tons of options in it for everything from little credit card looking covers to books to DVDs, combo packs, and all that. And the other one is from a gentleman by the name of Chad, which has been, I think, out probably the longest, kind of standard, eCover Authority. And that is something that I live with. You download, it's just I mean, I live in it all the time. I can whip out a really attractive looking ebook cover or a DVD cover in about 15 minutes. I do it a lot of times for friends to say, hey, I got a quickie. Can you just do it real quick? So, but I love them because, they're drag and drop, and they give you all of those use some kind of a template capability as a baseline.
What was that last one you mentioned?
eCover Authority.
eCover. I thought I had that authority. I like to get the links in here because you can go back and look at them.
Yeah, when I jump off, I'll go grab a list of these and put them in here for you.
I've got the world's slowest website. It's called ublabcast.com. But you know what it does?
Huh.
It's on Bluehost. It's one of mine. ublabcast.com has like a couple plugins in it, and it's got the feed that automatically puts up all the show notes and everything into note format underneath the Blab. I wouldn't put it on a normal website because it slows it down so much. But it takes all these notes and just puts them in place. It's got, I'm trying to think of the name of the plugin. It's got that plugin that automatically loads Blab.
Simply Live Press, probably.
It's one of the Simple Live Presses.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm trying to think of the name, but it slows down. I don't know if you've used that. That's why it's on.
Actually, I have it. I use it on Fill the Funnel. Every one of the last 25 labs we've done this month in December during the business week, every one of them is taken automatically. It takes about 60 minutes. And it pops over. Then I just go in and edit it. I have them so they come in as a draft, not as a final. Then I go add some comments on the show or some insights we learned and put a link to the upcoming shows. And I just hit and boom. And I think to Eileen's point she made earlier, I've noticed it does help. It does help with Twitter. It helps with rankings. And it makes it really easy because I don't have to worry about it then.
Hey, here's the thing I have too, and I'll ask you a little bit of advice here. I've got different Twitter accounts, and I've learned Twitter. I'm learning Twitter still. Twitter's something you continue to learn, I think. But I've got a bunch of Twitter sites, and as soon as I think of an idea or something, I'll go get the Gmail address, the first part of it at Gmail, and I'll try to pick up the Twitter right away. So I've got all these Twitter sites. The problem is my top one is, even though it's not my biggest one, is probably a Podcaster's Home. So should I just stick with that instead of trying to consolidate anything? Netcasting 101 is my training sites.
I would recommend exactly that. I think you got to be the master of one first. And then when you really are owning that, I mean, when you get thousands and thousands of followers, your domain expertise, again, now I go back and as an example, just in Twitter, probably the most important impact you can have over the next 3 months is using hashtags wisely for the topics that you want to be known as the expert in. I was lazy and never bothered with them most of the time. And I went into Clout and some of the other Cred and I kept looking at all these, quote, worldwide experts, like the top 10 and the top 100 or whatever. And as I looked at them, I kept thinking, what the heck am I doing wrong? And as I discovered it through trial and error and through some really smart people that were giving me help, hashtags was a wonderful solution. And now my key hashtag is sales. And guess what? Now I went from 0 to the top 3 in the whole world in that ranking by just using the hashtag more frequently.
For my timeline show, it's just hashtag timelines, and that's actually working pretty well. You think people do that, but I'm like dominating timelines. I just noticed that. I'm learning this stuff, but where do you start? When you're starting this business, there's so much to learn. You learn how to be a Twitter guy when you're still working, do a side hustle.
For me, anyway, and again, the big key is what business are you in, right? Are you, first of all, are you full-time or are you working this as a side job? And then secondarily, who's your market? Where do the people that you want to reach hang out? And once you know that, so for me, again, it's a business environment and it's sales and marketing professionals. I tell almost everyone, I don't care what you want to do, go get your blog started. Go get your WordPress site started. Get a base there because everything else I do always comes back to Fill the Funnel. Always.
The Fill the Funnel being the WordPress site. I agree.
Correct.
Before you learn how to do podcasting, whatever you're doing, start to understand WordPress. I did it reverse. I was a design build civil engineer between wars. And so I knew AutoCAD PCs real well and networking, but I could build some simple websites, but I didn't learn WordPress until 2 years ago.
Yeah. It's to me, because what's nice about WordPress is I can do everything there and blast it out anywhere I choose to, right?
Right.
Versus the other way around. And I have in my presentations I do is that I have two expressions: tech the tedious and automate the redundant. And there's not a tool or a platform anywhere in the world that I've seen, and I am always looking for it, better than WordPress, that gives you the ability to add plugins and add that capability to WordPress to do whatever the heck. I mean, like we were talking about Blab. Blab's great. All of a sudden, what happens? Now we're able to have Blab be published on my blog automatically. So if I can tech the tedious and automate the redundant, that frees me up to do more of the creative things that are more fun usually for us anyway.
Don't you find that simple live press slows down the site a little bit though? That's why I tested it.
I haven't seen noticeable, and I use, what is the thing I use? GT metric. So I'm still at the same percentage. So I don't know. Now I only have about 25 or 30 episodes. So I don't know. Maybe it bogs down with more. I don't know.
And the other thing too, do you have different channels for different shows? Like you can make a different Twitter account for different shows?
I haven't yet because, again, my focus was part of the interest in this creating this Firestarter series was I got to make sure that I get that darn cloud score up. And I realized for me, the other thing is I've got a case study that wraps up at the end of the month with 2 accounts. I have my Fill the Funnel account was one, and my other one is just Miles Austin. And Miles Austin is tied to my Fill the Funnel account for some branding reasons, whatever. But what I've done is we're working with 2 plugins that I literally went out and bought the rights to so I can go sell them on my own that automate this in a way that's not abusive. It's not blasting with a shotgun. I'm adding roughly 20 to 25 followers a day by doing nothing but sharing the topics that are or the authors that are important to the audience I'm reaching for in each of my categories. And what I liked about it was some of these tools that show up out there, they come up and then they explode, then they go away because they're either violating terms of conditions or something. This one is just a very methodical 20 to 25 people a day I'm adding. And I started it on November 22nd in my kind of unused account at Fill the Funnel. And I've added, I don't know, but I was adding 20 to 25 people a day for a month. It's amazing how quickly it adds up. And my clout score in that account, which I never even looked at before, is up over 10 points. So, I mean, that to me is a big piece. I think personally that if someone said, if you can only use 3 tools for what you do, Miles, what would they be? WordPress, Twitter, and I would still say probably for my overall business, probably still be GoToWebinar because I do 3 or 4 of those minimum per week at least on that with clients, usually private trainings.
Right. Zoom is getting real popular too. I don't know if you played with Zoom.
I have, and I have a couple. I do one of my masterminds I'm doing with Zoom, really just to kind of get a feel for it. Are you having good luck with it?
My sponsor of this show, I actually have a sponsor over here in Reno. He just bought the commercial version of Zoom, and it's a guy who has Share the Oils. Actually, is an MLM, and it's interesting. He does really, really well, but he really loves Zoom. The guy was at Silicon Valley. We have in Reno, we have a lot of Silicon Valley people here. They retire here, live up in the Lake Tahoe, and it's very expensive homes around here. But they're about 10 years behind in technology. This is one of the older guys who's staying current, and he's got this side business. It's pretty amazing. And he's playing around with trying to figure out how to get MLMs more connected online type stuff. And he's using Zoom. And Zoom is really easy. I don't know if you play with Zoom. It's pretty darn easy.
Yeah, it is. I like it overall. I think what I found is that it's, again, a lot of mine are corporate type people. They're doing these out of their office environment. Right. And so for them, they've already got everything set up. They've already used GoToWebinar a lot. Right. So it's a no-brainer. That's where things like Hangouts were a problem for me. And
Join Me, I bought Join Me, but I'm not going to use Join Me anymore. I'm going to use Zoom. Hangouts are easier. I do Hangouts. I've had people come to me to help set up and monitor Hangouts, the backside engineer guy.
Do you do Hangouts raw, or do you do them with like a webinar jam or something as a wrapper?
I've got Ninja Webinar, and I do just raw ones mostly. We do a podcast. It's a roundtable of the top WordPress people across the country once a month. And I'm not the WordPress guru like these folks are, but sometimes I look at them and some of them know nothing about marketing. It's that fine line in between. That's why I try to be that bridge on the marketing. Sounds like you got the marketing down. How long have you been doing this?
I've been in the sales and marketing world for about 30-something years. in tech almost all of that time. And about 9 years ago, I left Dell, was my last real corporate job, about 12 years ago. And I started writing Fill the Funnel because I literally was just doing it because I love writing about technology and tools and how to help sales and marketing people.
Hey, Miles, I got a quick question. It'll take you 25 minutes, 30 minutes max. Why don't we hang up and just do a quick timeline, and instead of me putting my little show on, my other show, I'll put that on today.
I'd love to do it, except it's 11:20 right now. I got to be at my grandkids at 12 o'clock, and they're about 20 minutes down the road. So
that's a good excuse.
Yeah, well, you know what? If there is one, that's a good one, right?
That's a good one.
But no, seriously, we'll connect, but we'll make this happen. Definitely so, Bill. As I said, I've enjoyed the conversation you guys all had, and I just like the very transparent, open. Hey, we have some ideas, and we got some things to learn, and that should be all of us. Right. I'm going to try to do this at 9 o'clock, and that means I'm going to have to put up some kind of other show. But I'm committed to put up a show daily. But I think you're right. I thought about the same thing, and I think I probably drank the Kool-Aid, because I was going to start a real estate company in Reno when I got out of I went back in active duty, and I really like this environment. I always wanted to do something like this, but the tools are changing so fast. So it'd be nice if you can come on next week, because the 3 questions are, what are 3 things you did this year that worked? And then it's a short show. And then after the first break, we go into what are 3 things you want to do next year? Perfect. In fact, I think I got all the answers for that from my perspective, because I just did a guest blog post for Dan McCade over at ClearPoint, and 2 of those 3 questions were what he asked for me. So I had to actually put some time. Yeah, on my schedule right now, Monday the 28th is open, the 29th is open. At what time? It's 9 o'clock Pacific. Okay, let me look. I know I've got my. And then I've got Jessica Rhodes, who's really great, and Jim Carlson's. He's going to finish up on the 31st. I don't know if you know Jim. Average. Yeah. And I'll fill those 28th and 29th. Let me put the link in again. Okay. If you go to timelines, I don't like, that was my name initially. I would never use that name again. In fact, I'm thinking about getting a redirect. What do redirects do to your SEO? And I've never had to do them long term, so I don't. Or when I do them as a permanent redirect. So, like, I'll buy a domain name that might be a hot new topic or a neat thing that I want to feed into it. So I just do a permanent redirect into Fill the Funnel usually. Yeah, but you know who's a really interesting one I'm watching really closely. A good friend of mine is, and I know Eileen knows her well, is Vivica von Rosen, whose Twitter handle is LinkedIn Expert. She's built a really strong business, and she's an author and all of that on LinkedIn. But she's going through, because she built her world on LinkedIn Expert and her Twitter handle and everything else. And she's got a ton of followers and all that, but she's going through rebranding over the holidays. She's realized she's put herself in a box, because now she is, quote, the LinkedIn Expert. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of like me. She's kind of tired of it, very frankly. But what do you do when your brand, your URL, your Twitter handle, and everyone that the whole world knows is LinkedIn Expert, and you want to talk about business-to-business marketing or sales tools or whatever it might be? So I've been following what she's doing really closely, because I said she's been a good longtime friend as well. We've done a lot of collaboration together. We've done actually a Blab together just recently. But I think she's going to have a struggle based tied to your question there, is that she has built up a great equity in LinkedIn Expert, and to change it isn't just to flip it a switch. No, it can be done technically, but what's going to happen? I told her, man, you got to really watch this closely. Well, I noticed when I use Podcasters Home, I get more traffic on Blab. If I use Netcasting 101, I hardly get anything. Now, if I use Meet the Voter, which is another one of my shows, I get even less. Yeah. It's. I'll tell you what, and I have some good friends. One of the things I found is that we all, especially again, if you don't have any experience or anyone guiding you as a mentor or something, when you get into this world of online, it's really easy to make mistakes. Like, pick a really cool URL, but if you think longer term, there are people that can guide you to say, think through it. Jill Conrad went through this and she has had just a tremendous career. I have a lot of respect for Jill. And I remember when she came to me, and her first book was called Selling to Big Companies. And her LinkedIn address was linkedin.com, blah, 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 selling to big companies. Well, guess what? Now she has a new book out, and then a third book out. And so she goes, Miles, how do I change it? she had never really thought about that when she started, because we all kind of ease into this on our own speed. And so, again, for most people, I think having a name, it's a little bit different for women based on marriage and all those kind of things that we do in our society. But if you can grab your name, one of my fun things to do, and I have friends and family that have newborns, I go out and if I possibly can, I'll buy the domain name, the .com domain if I can. And some people look at me like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I said, let me tell you, if you just hold on to this for the next 20 years and it's .com and it's their name, they are going to give you a huge hug and a big high five, because there will be value to it down the road.
Yep. I do the same thing, Kaylee. These are my kids, and that's my wife and my kid.
I love it.
And I don't even have, I'm William Conrad, and William, was a big actor. So I really have a hard time battling up against him.
Yep.
And he's been dead since 72.
I know. I love it. See, well, that's not good news, because for me, I used to own Google. First 2 or 3 pages, I was all over, because I was very active on this as I built my business. And then I had the misfortune of having a gentleman with the same name, who young, good-looking, single, professional football player with the Dallas Cowboys was bad enough. And then he starts dating Kim Kardashian. Well, Miles Austin blew up and owned the first 10 pages. And I got to tell you, I have a whole presentation sometimes. It's not necessarily for public, but with the closed group that I know, I can share a presentation to say, if you want to know what it's like to be young, rich, good-looking, single, a pro football or a pro athlete, I got a whole presentation to show you the photos, the tweets, the emails from young ladies that sent those things, those offers, those photos to me, not even paying attention to the darn photo, which was clearly not the Miles Austin they thought they were sending it to.
You. That's pretty funny. That's hysterical. Hey, well, I'll let you go, and I want to thank everyone from checking in today. And if you can make it on the 28th, where are you located? What city?
I'm up in Seattle area.
Same time zone.
So I don't have the problem that I leaned in with time zone differences. So
well, the other thing too is what I like. I'm 12 o'clock East Coast, which is kind of nice. 9 o'clock is a good time for a show, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think too. One last thing, we did a political show, and on Saturdays called Meet the Voter. I'm experimenting with it, but another guy came in and talked to me, and he did a similar show during a weekday and really took off. Sometimes I wonder, time is a real critical thing. Like a political show, maybe in the evenings might be better than the morning, because morning's more business. So.
Absolutely. Well, and if you're ever looking for guests on Meet the Voter, I've got a good friend, Todd Schnick, SCHNICK. He runs a company called Intrepid Media. He's out of Atlanta. And Todd was an operative in some very well-known national campaigns at the national level. He was an aide. He's lived in that world, and now he's in our world. But a great guy. I think if you want to get a guest that's really been in the trenches and knows what really goes on, he'd be. And I'll get you connected, Bill, if that's of interest.
What's his name? Todd what?
Todd Schnick. SCH. Here, I'll put it in the
MIT.
No, TOGG.
Yeah, I love dropping it. I just saw that. Let's see. Guy I'm trying to get on is I just saw Jason Bryant. Jason, you need to come on my show next week. I know you got crazy shows. I got to fill 2 slots next week. Todd, okay, that's his Twitter site.
Yeah, so that's Intrepid Media is his, and I think it's just intrepidmedia.com. I'm not sure, but he's building a really, really neat, very exciting media company with a lot of different topics. But when I want to have a conversation or sometimes a debate with someone in politics, I'll always call Todd, and he's always good for an hour conversation that really challenges my thinking. That's good.
I do like to look at the art of politics, how people get elected. It's really unique. I can tell you, we don't get the best and brightest people elected.
Absolutely the case. I know. I love it. And again, we can talk forever. I mean, that's why I like what I do in sales and marketing, because to me, it's the influence. How do you change the thinking and get people to commit to what you're all about as a politician? And usually when they either don't know you or they have an opposite view, that art of persuasion and turning the minority into the majority to vote for you is an art, and I thoroughly enjoy that. It's a great game.
And timing is everything, because people are pretty fed up with the middle. The middle ground used to be the place to be, but then the special interests all took them over. And And then, anyway, hey, well, I appreciate it very much. Let's see, Jason Bryant, I'm jammed up for the next 2 weeks. Well, Jason, I've got a whole year ahead of me, so just go in there and schedule. I'm only scheduling 3 weeks in advance, and I have backup shows too if somebody doesn't show up. But I've only had it happen 3 times at 156 episodes, so it's kind of fun.
Bill, I'm going to take off so you can wrap up your show. Thank you. Enjoyed it. We'll be talking.
Thanks, Miles. I appreciate it. Well, folks, this is Bill. I have to go up next to make a real short show and record it and get it up on iTunes, because I am trying to get an iTunes up every day. I'll be on at 9 o'clock here next week, 9 Pacific, and we'll do the same thing where it's just an open forum. It's kind of fun. I recorded it. It's be up on YouTube. You can find it in a lot of different places. And I think we got a lot of basics. Now, what I got out of today is I'm going to recap something real fast. I've got some notes here. And what I did is I came up and talked about all the different things you have to do to be good at podcasting or make money online or whatever you want to call it. I said producer, engineer, webmaster, talent, which is the host, editing, copyright, which can be marketing itself, then the website graphics. And then we had, let's see, Miles, let me look at his notes. Miles Austin come up, and he said something I totally agree with. And a lot of people contract this out, but I think the place you start is you learn WordPress. You just get a basic WordPress up and going. And then from WordPress, you go to Twitter, hooking in Twitter and some tools. Now, your local meetups is a great place to start, but they're not going to be, unless you have an amazing meetup. Try to go to WordCamps, start playing around with getting a basic camp. In a commercial here, I do have a link. I think Miles mentioned Bluehost, and I have Bluehost. I have a 3-year program for cloud hosting on Bluehost, which works fine. And I also have a SiteGround that I recommend. So I'm going to put my link up there. If you go to Netcasting 101, and you go to resources, I should have a much more, this is really the basics. This is called lazy, that I don't have this resources page even better, because I passed over in 2 years a lot of money, because it doesn't cost anything more to use an affiliate. That's where you start. But by far the easiest, I think, right now, and this is SiteGround. Not using SiteGround, I recommend Bluehost to start. There's some DigitalOcean is pretty amazing, but it doesn't have a cPanel. So you have to be a WordPress guru really to get in the backside, or a programmer to get in the backside of that. And I do have Netcasting 101 is on DigitalOcean, which I'm going to take it off, I think. I'm going to move over to SiteGround. It's only going to cost me $30. The reason I'm taking it off is because we can't get the secure socket right now without taking a lot of time. So that said, I'm going to come up and do a quick little show review. I do have a really great new little tool from Libsyn that I'm going to be talking about today on the podcast, which is timelines at timelinesofsuccess.com or #timelines. Without that, thanks for everybody. Come on, Jonathan. I see you're up there. If you want to come up and do there's Jonathan. We'll finish it with Jonathan.
Yeah.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
I was going to try to call you and see if you wanted to do WP Tonic 73.
I will leave it to them. Look, and I wish you a happy Christmas and your family a happy Christmas, Bill.
Okay. Good.
Did you stuff yourself yesterday?
Oh, yeah, I did. What did you do?
I went round some of my friends in Carson and I absolutely stuffed myself.
Jonathan, for those out there maybe new, Jonathan have WP Tonic, WP-Tonic. It's all about WordPress and
no, it isn't, Bill. It's about us two bitching constantly.
Yeah, that too. On each other. I'm like anti-DigitalOcean right now. I know there's some really good things, and Jonathan's pushing DigitalOcean.
Well, no, but I'll sort out your. But there's different solutions that suit different scenarios.
Yeah, like I said, I'm really impressed with some different. Bluehost is not.
Could I be truthful, Bill? Sorting that problem out for you might take up my whole day. I don't know. It might take me an hour, or it might take me the whole day to sort that problem.
Here, folks. So this is a DigitalOcean. We put it in, Jonathan and I appreciate 6 hours to get it in, and it really is. It's a solid state, and Jonathan can talk about it. But until you really get a system down, it should be really fast to get that up. There should be tools to get DigitalOcean. But DigitalOcean is the next level. Let me put the link in here. It's a good way to finish up. This is tell me why you like. Why would you recommend DigitalOcean right now?
Well, I think for the money you spend on it, you know, when you look at the specification for around, and you know, it depends how much traffic you're getting, but most of the people I've spoken to, between $10 and $20, the majority, they get enough bandwidth to satisfy their needs, and you're getting a VPS for $20 a month. But the thing you're not getting is you're not getting a lot of support, because well, they can't really, can they, for $20 a month?
You're not getting a cPanel.
Well, you're not getting fantastic support. Basically, that's where they're cutting back, and they make it really quite clear that they give some email support, but you know, which is fair enough. You know, as long as you're prepared to spend the time on it or want to, that's okay. But it's not. You know, I don't use DigitalOcean for everything I do. There's a one site that I don't use them on it because I've got a pretty complicated setup, and I probably at some stage might put it on DigitalOcean, but I didn't want to do that straight away. So I don't honestly believe there's just one solution for everybody. I just don't believe that with hosting. I think it's a lot more complicated than people, you know. What I do know is when I've just gone for the cheapest hosting, it's never worked out. I don't know what I do. I just end up with a doggy slow website that doesn't load up, doesn't really do, you know. I've learnt my lesson about going with really cheap hosting. It's not really panned out for me very well.
Well, I never considered you ever using cheap hosting. You've always tried to do the best you can with it.
I've gone, you know, I like using, you know, I think, but, you know, your secure socket certificate, you know, yeah. I'm quite happy to help you out with that. I couldn't do it yesterday because I was busy with my own stuff, but I'm quite happy to look into it. But it might, but you at some stage, you know, what we have to discuss is how much research you've done yourself to try and solve it yourself. And then, you know, that, but then if it's obvious you've done your best, I'll take over.
But no, Jonathan, you know, Jonathan and I got in a little quarrel the other day right before a show because
you got rather pissy.
My money site, yeah. And I'll tell you, it's a good story behind it. Okay, I do all the engineering, all the backside on WP Tonic, and I think Jonathan, you could, and plus I do some other work for some groups around town where I've been trying to train up their people to take over, so I'm not doing it because I want to be a trainer. I don't want to be the guy actually doing the engineering. And we do live streaming down at a couple casinos. And it's like these groups get so lazy that they can be doing it themselves, but they have to buy a little bit of equipment and just do it. But that said, I understand where Jonathan's coming from. I think you're still learning DigitalOcean. We know it's a fantastic tool. And we spent 6 hours and we didn't get the secure socket right the first time.
Oh, I think it's been, that's the thing that puzzles me. I'm pretty sure it's been installed correctly, but there's some other thing that...
I pulled up the initial WordPress site, and as you can see, I pulled up the link, the 4 things that we probably need to do, go into PHP and just flip it in. Well, I was going to do that myself. I still might do that stuff. I can do it from the front end of the WordPress site. And I just haven't had time to go back. But here's what, if it's my money site, I'm not sure I want that on DigitalOcean. Now, here's the thing. I always like to have American providers of hosting, so they're American. But I'll tell you what, I really do like now looking at, Bluehost is solid. Their new cloud material is great. I have 15 websites on Bluehost.
I've got to be honest about it, Bill. They're not, what can you say? Because I've never used them, and I've never had but I've never heard anybody say terrible things about them.
The customer service is slow.
Yeah, so,
but I'll tell you what.
But you know, I've used SiteGround for years.
SiteGround's amazing.
They've got good points. It's the same gig. They've got some really good points, but they've got, you know,
they go up after a year.
Well, it's not that, Bill, but when they get your credit card details, they've charged me a couple of times for stuff that I've never even had with them.
You know, hey, let me tell you a solution that Bank of America has this. You can generate a separate credit card number for each of your vendors and then put a limit on it.
Oh, that's great.
If you're in this business, you want to get into that.
Because I'm in the process of trying to get some of my money back.
The other thing I do too is through American Express is I wish they had this. But I've got it shows me right away when I get a charge on here instantly.
But you know, I think the strength of SiteGround is their I've found the quality of their first level support team to be pretty high. They're not, and if it's out of their depth, they don't try and mislead you. What they normally do is they upgrade it to a level 2 technician, and the general. But you've got to be aware that they're based in Bulgaria, and that's how they can provide that quality of support at the price. But I've found before I had my own team is that if there's anything out of the normal space of what a hosting provider should provide, they will help you out, but they will charge you a hell of a lot of money to sort anything out that's too difficult. But they're not misleading you, because if it's really there's a certain level of helping somebody out with their WordPress site that's out of the bounds of what a hosting company should be expected to do, and but they still offer support but they will charge, you know. And yeah, sure.
What'd you get? What are you drinking? Oh, cookie. I got a free cookie.
I got Christmas cake, mate. There, you know, the thing that annoyed me about them, Bill, was that they did charge my credit card a couple of times for stuff that I've never even had with them.
Yeah, that's not good.
Trying to get my money back was I found with SiteGround, if they get your money, they don't want to give you a refund.
Well, a credit card, if you use American Express or Bank of America and get those cards,
they're really hard to get. It's like getting blood out of a stone trying to get a refund out of them.
You know, we went over a list of stuff today that you need to do to get, you know, podcasting or netcasting up. And we came down to get your website up right, you know, get the basics down before you go into the other media, maybe play around with Blab. But the other thing we didn't talk about is finance. In finance, where you're even a side hustle or business, is important to watch your dollars.
Say that again.
It's really easy to spend a lot of money online. And,
they're so good, these online marketers, aren't they, Bill, getting your money?
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of people who spent a lot of money initially, and I don't think I've watched you. I don't think you've done. I know you have I've helped you too. I think I've saved you some money and told you not to use some consultants that want a lot of money.
You got to be what's his name? The podcaster that's got the enormous following that you like.
John Lee Dumas. I mean, we're both Army officers. I know what John lost 3 guys in Splendid. I know John.
Yeah, you said to me that he did spend, but he only kept with a consultant for 6 months at the most, and then he moved on to the next one, didn't he?
John had quite a bit of money, and he hit a home run. He's a smart guy, and he, you know, in the military, he's in war, he's in combat, he's lost some guys in his platoon. I met him, you know, I knew him through LinkedIn, believe it or not, on a profile ahead of time, and he's done things really right. So is Pat Flynn, but Pat Flynn has done it over a period of time building up. But John did hire some coaches and do some things I think were right. He got the right people. but you have to know how to get the right people and how to, you can blow a lot of money out there too. There's no such thing as a get rich quick.
I think you're right about that, and I think he was right. I think going with a particular coach for more than 6 months is probably not. How much more value can they provide on the table, really, after more than 6 months? I actually doubt it myself. And I think, I think you can come with new insights, new feedback. If it's a specialization, you can sort something out for a client. But, I don't believe in kind of business advice. You can provide much more than probably 6 months of value, really. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, but you can get a quick startup. But, another thing we talked about earlier today is from support is sometimes you don't need the high-end person giving your initial support, like the basics of setting up a WordPress, things like that. You don't need to use a programmer or a high-end person in WordPress. You just need to get up and running with some of the basics, getting your picture up, getting your framework up, getting loaded on your provider. And I think you can contract that out. It doesn't have to be real expensive. Hey, the Tweeting Goddess is on.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Samson.
I'm looking right now. I've got 156 shows, and instead of me doing a special, I could do one of my timelines today, and I can't remember if Samantha did one. I know I
want to have her on, Bill. She's a bit of a handful. Sam's a bit of a handful.
Well, last time I think I tried to get her on, but somehow we were blocked or something. And
oh yeah, they blocked those Irish people. Yeah, you want to block those. They're a bit dicey, to say the least.
Samantha, can you get to my website now? The timelines? Let me see. I'm going to put timelines in here.
Oh, that was my show, Sam. That he wants you to go on his special. Prepare yourself.
It's a 25-minute interview. I do it, whatever. I do it at 9 o'clock normally, but since we did this show, I could put it up separately. So timeline success interview.
Yeah.
If you want to, I can do one like after we hang up here, I can come back up and do a 25-minute interview, and we'll put it up today on iTunes, and we'll do show notes. I normally do my show notes ahead of time.
Oh, she's up for it, Bill.
Okay. So right after the show, we'll go hang on for about another 10 or 15 minutes. Jonathan, if you wanted this afternoon when you get back to your house, whatever, if you want to reshoot 74, we can get that up tonight. Let's do up tonight.
Yeah, text me. I'm working on the mail. Yeah, all right. Yep, we'll do it.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Are you doing your politics thing tomorrow?
Tomorrow, yeah. 9 o'clock. Right. You're welcome to come up.
Yep.
I'm going to get whoever. It's the holiday, so I'm not overly worried about it. Some basic show notes. We'll see who pops up. Next, we didn't talk. One thing we didn't talk about in the show today is Chromebooks.
Oh.
I'd love to buy a Chromebook. Nick is doing so well with his Chromebook.
Well, there's a lot. They've got these Microsoft. They're kind of competitor to Chromebooks, where I noticed them in some of the computer stores. They only run that Microsoft 360. It only runs. You have to pay for the 360, and it only runs a bit. And they're about the same price as a Chromebook. So
is like a Surface? Is Surface something? Is that Surface?
No, it's like a little Chromebook, but it only runs Microsoft, and it only runs that Microsoft 360, and they're about $180. But where the Chromebooks, get a decent Chromebook, I think it'd probably be the same. You're looking at $250, but for $250 you get a hell of a lot, don't you?
Yeah, I think with the Chromebook, although I understand the OS may be changing on the Chromes, but I really like Google and Business Google for $50 a month. Hey, Samantha, I just put a link in there. Do me a favor. Go in there and just do a rough fill of that. You don't even have to get it. Just do minimals on that. Insert that in there. And what I'll do is I'll set up a Blab, like I said. We'll take a 15-minute break. It's on the hour. So on the hour, which it's 11:49 right now in Reno, Nevada. So at 12 o'clock Pacific time, I'll come up and I'll have a show set up. It'll be a timeline. And I'll put your information in there, Samantha. So let me make sure I got your basic one. That's Samantha Kelly. Let me go in. I love to go and I can get your Twitter real fast. You got such a good Twitter. I'm up 28,000 followers. Amazing. How do you do that? But it'll be a good show. It's only 25 minutes, but a good show for today.
She knows everyone personally, Bill.
And hey, Samantha, first of all, can you get to my website? Can you open up that link? Yes. Okay. For some reason, she couldn't open up in Ireland, and I know that we should be opened up again in India because we got blocked. I cleaned up a podcast, believe it or not, and got reopened up in India. You can't have anything that's rated below like happy, the G.
Well, they're only into happiness in India, Bill.
G, you got to really watch it on your podcast.
I'll be no good there, would I?
Hey, John, if you wanted this afternoon or tonight, if you do it at 6, if you do it in the evening, again, I'll have it up in this evening for WP.
Yeah, shall we look at 6 o'clock then?
And it's a good one too. Tonight about 6 o'clock Pacific, we'll be back on Blab with a really good show, Genesis Dynamic, and it's all about the dynamic elements or
plugins.
The plugins around that platform. And I use Dynamic. It's funny talking to everybody out there. They can convince you all these other things, but I'm sticking with Genesis.
I think if you are looking for a certain look, it's one of those things again. Yeah. I get a little bit frustrated with people in the WordPress kind of community where they say this plugin or this hosting provider or this is the one to go for. It's always a lot more complicated. Always.
Yeah. But I think you can narrow it down to 8 or 10 when you're starting and they'll all work and learn them. You got to learn each one.
Well, it's a bit like the membership plugins. There's over 12 of them and they're all pretty good. So if somebody says to me, which one's the best? I can't really tell them because they're all pretty good.
And plus, we don't have we're not experts in membership sites.
I've done about 5 for clients.
For clients, okay.
But they 3 of those clients utilize a plugin. I won't say what it was. It's one of the more established ones. Yeah, I consider it one of the more clunky ones. They wanted to use it because it had some key features that they needed to use. So it's all swings and roundabouts.
Well, Jonathan, I got to get ready for Samantha's. I'll put it up. Samantha, I'll have the link up. You just have to find it. Samantha, just go up in Blab and find on the link. It'll be up. You can type in Bill Conrad, of course, and find it real fast. So I'll be up in 10 minutes. So that's the end of the show. See you guys.